Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Denise, and this is Universal Voice Radio, special weekly presentation of Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire. Today is July the 17th, and I'm going to open the mics here. Welcome, Tanaath and Sunfire and Drake, of course.
Hello.
Hello.
How do?
Great to have all of you with us as usual. And forewarning, we have, once again, about 25 pages of questions in advance of the show. So, yeah, before we've even said one word, we have 25 pages of questions. So, however, I will state that I am going to try. We do have people working very diligently and very hard on transcripts of this Wednesday's, the Wednesday shows. I want to thank them they're having to spend at least 10, 12 hours a day on this. And they're catching up, and they've got all of the shows from May and June, and they're about to start with the July shows. So they're catching up. And once those transcripts are available, excuse me?
I was like, you're catching up. Darn it, let's run ahead. Let's run faster.
Yeah. So once those transcripts are available, we can refer you back to that, and maybe we won't have so many repetitious questions, because I know not everybody can catch every show, and that's understandable. And we do have new people coming in. But if it's in black and white and you can, catch your questions, answered, then perhaps we will flow a little bit better in the future. So with that, I'm going to invite Drake to give any introduction he wants to, and then the girls, of course, and then we will proceed with the rapid-fire questions.
Cool. A lot of people don't get it, and I'm kind of surprised that they don't. People have been asking, when were you going to do something? And they were specifically addressing it to me. When was I going to do something that was real? When is something going to happen? Well, we've got a nice little thunderstorm. So over here crackling, it's lightning going by. The going to happen is already in process. People don't understand that. A lot of people can't get their head around the fact that angels, ETs, whatever handle you want to stick on there, is real. The interesting part of this is that we've been getting questions that would make us look stupid, foolish, etc. Ridiculously mundane questions are okay. There are new people out there, and I understand that, and I don't mind giving a quickie answer to someone on a subject that's been covered a little bit. However, when you go to the point of describing certain portions of anatomy shriveling up and falling off because you think it's hilarious, start your own page. Go bother somebody else. I'm not interested, and neither is anybody that I know who takes this in any way, shape of possibility, let alone reality. And it's simple. This is not a contest to see who can outlandish who. It is not something that is he who would tell a bigger tale would have to tell a lie. What is being offered here is a really honest insight into what you're getting ready to experience. We are trying to reach out to as many people who can get their head around just that much. Nothing more, nothing less. We're not trying to be grandiose. We're not trying to puff ourselves up as to position, rank, or any of that. That's not something that is done. Some subjects, and I posted this on our Facebook page, won't be covered for a variety of reasons. Mostly because you have to go to validation. You have to go to confirmation. You have to go to the reality of the situation, condition you're talking about. To some extent, honest questions ain't a problem. BS questions that are attempting to cause us problems won't even be entertained. And believe me, you should see some of the off-the-wall horse hockey that some of these imaginative people have come up with. I'm kind of surprised. Some of them, I'll actually got to give them credit, are kind of inventive. They're sort of original. I have worked with both of the ladies involved here, and yet people still question. And they question the veracity, they question the validity, not only of things that I am talking about and have talked about on my own shows, but also and especially this. Ooh, get the tinfoil hat, man, he's talking again. Pass the bottle. Yeah, right. This ain't one of this is not an entertainment type of deal. This is something where if you're serious, I honestly suggest get you a legal pad or some kind of scratch pad and make notes. You're going to need to know this information. You might want to review it. Now, one of the other problems, everybody keeps harping, jumping up and down. You didn't answer my question. Do you even listen to the show? 99 times out of 10, 99 times out of 10, that's how ridiculous this is. People will say that when their questions have been answered multiple times within the show that they asked the question. Hello. I offer that you guys need to get a little bit more real than what has been in the past. And I'm not putting this on people that are truly listening. I'm putting this on the people that don't have time other than to text and jump in every once in a while with their opinions. We have a lot of that. People might want to consider, as I said, paying attention. You do that by putting down your funky phone, keeping your skinners off of it, turn it off even, and pay attention. Listen up. You're liable to hear some things that I thought I had heard that before. Or, I thought they never answered my question. Yeah, huh? This is what I'm getting at. Listen up, pay attention, go with the flow a little bit in terms of what your mind can handle. Most people agree that there's a heaven. And I say most. I'm not denigrating people that don't believe in it. Let's put them in the scientific realm. You have dimensions, and we're getting ready to make a change. We're going to take a step up, and it's a pretty good-sized step. Part of this show deals with the reality of that, well, some of what to expect. And no, we're not going to cover everything, but you're going to get a good dose of the truth with people that work with it. So, I couldn't ask for two finer people than the ladies that agreed to do this show. I really couldn't. So I'd say on with the show. What you guys say?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have a little bit of opening remarks that I want to say, and it's actually about another contactee/incarnate who has done a lot of work in this field, faced personal and financial consequences for this in terms of his house, his family, his job. A great forerunner in the industry and in the movement, a forerunner before the forerunners. Alex Collier really deserves a shout out from everybody involved in this, because without him, a lot of us would still be in the dark and sleeping. Without the work that people like Tulloch and Alex Collier have done, a lot of people, including myself, would likely still be in the dark and sleeping and nowhere near prepared for what is to come. So I just want to give a shout-out tonight to Alex Collier. I doubt he's listening, but if he is, know that you're appreciated, man. You did some wonderful work, and we are very glad that you chose to do what you did.
I totally agree, Tanaath, because I was just earlier today telling a friend of mine that it was Alex Collier, along with my brother and my pony, that really got me started, introduced me to all this stuff, and really got me thinking. And, yeah, I wouldn't be here today without him, for sure. So sending my love to Alex Collier, too. You rock. Thank you.
And he's faced a great deal of difficulty for this work.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who thinks we're doing this for attention, for fame, for wealth, there ain't any in this, honey. It's just not the case. We face a great deal of ridicule. We face personal risk. We face the loss of our livelihoods, loss of personal contacts for this work. And we've chosen to go ahead with it anyway because it's needed for the benefit of all.
And that's why we're here. It's for the benefit of all, not for the benefit of ourselves as individuals.
And you'll have to pardon me, we have a thunderstorm outside. So, no, that was not the consequences of too many dragon pellets.
Yeah. Who doesn't? Drake's having a thunderstorm. I've got thunderstorms. You've got thunderstorms.
Hey, it's perfectly clear and blue skies out here in where I'm at.
Well, great. Maybe my nightly visitors will go fly by you instead tonight. 5 Clever's likely to be a little too low for me.
Well, it has been perfectly clear here all day. Yeah, it's been perfectly clear here all day long until I dialed into Blog Talk and then I could hear the thunder.
Last night my visitors were doing crossovers on each other. It was quite spectacular. I kept teasing them and saying, "You're a moth, you're a moth," and then they'd start doing tricks like that. Well,
yeah.
Then I say, "Fancy moth flying there."
Okay.
It makes
mercy sakes.
I think the rain's at Drake's house.
I think the rain's over Drake's house.
Okay, if we can hear, perhaps we can get to some questions.
Yeah, let's rock.
Okay, yeah, well, we've got a lot of rocking and rolling to do. So, girls, I'm not trying to pressure you or anything, but let's try to answer the questions as quickly and concisely as we possibly can because,
there's a lot of them.
We've got many to go through, and again, I'm going to do my best to not be repetitive. But the way I file questions out, I can't even tell you what I've asked. And okay, I'm going to have to read through the archives to know what I asked. Okay, all right. Let me scroll back 25 pages to the first one. Okay. All right. Is there any way to stop channeled messages permanently from their source?
We've been trying to do this for a while. Unfortunately, this question posits a singular source or a genuine entity as a source. In many cases, what we're dealing with are artificial intelligence propagated messages, canned messages, which explains why so many people get the exact same message at the same time. And they're disseminated using a very sophisticated relay system, which is often highly disguised and protected. Now, if this is something that is with our best interests in mind, why go through such lengths to disguise it, hide it, and start it up again when it stops, when it is not necessary in any way, shape, or form for human advancement?
And, I've heard many times that people have tried to stop receiving these messages, and they get attacked and get harassed.
It's very harmful personally to the channelers. Now, there's some channelers who report feeling good while doing that. Well, yeah, that's one of the ways in which they hook you into it. But it does take a lot of energy from the person, and it does take a toll on the body. And people who have been channeling for a long time become completely unable to block signals from anyone or anything. They become basically a house with all the doors open and unlocked and the windows and shutters flying open in the breeze that anybody can just walk in and do what they want. This is obviously not an ideal situation, nor is it one that promotes your sovereignty or health. And this is, once again, the scariest thing I see is people actually saying, yeah, go try this for yourself. You can channel Salusa. No, Don't do it. It's bad for you. You can do yourself a lot of damage that way. But yes, we are trying to stop them definitively, but it's very, very difficult because right now, as soon as we destroy one relay, they hook up another. And while we have achieved sometimes week-long disruptions, we haven't achieved permanent cessation of the messages. And they're not just coming to this planet. It is being used as an attack vector for several different planets. Next.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, girls, so that I don't talk over you or start asking the next question when you're still completing a thought, if you would do like Drake does and just say next. So
yeah,
I've been excused.
Sometimes I have a third step down going on, though, when I think of something like a few seconds later.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, and I don't want to talk over you. I've been accused of, not letting you complete your answer and stuff. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to come back to this one because I'm sure I've asked big parts of it, but I don't know that I've asked the whole thing. Okay. Let's see. Alex Collier's account of the crash landing of the Tau Satan called Hank, and I know you've addressed this a few times. What happened to Hank? What the evil cabal did to him has haunted me, and I'm sending cold dread. It sends cold dread through me. Quite frankly, I would have had that underground base and its occupants vaporized with hardly a thought. Now, listening to Tanaath, she has said that Hank's family has been destroyed, but on top of that, that the planet in the Tau Station system has been attacked by the reptoids. Am I right? And is that planet, or was that planet destroyed? If ever there was a wet planet... Okay, go ahead.
Let's go through a few of these one at a time. It's a lot easier to answer a question at a time than it is to answer an omnibus. When I get an omnibus, I forget part of it, and then I don't answer the whole thing, and then people say, you didn't answer my question. Well, don't write 5 questions in one and expect them all to be answered by an attention deficit disorder dragon. Hank spent 3 years in that facility where he was experimented on, often without anesthetic. He was very poorly mistreated, but that isn't what killed him. What killed him was malnutrition, the fact that his wounds never quite healed properly because they just weren't able to provide the medical support necessary, and lack of sunlight because, honestly, beings need natural light. Hank's superior officer was about ready to go vaporize the facility and declare war on the United States for this, but was persuaded not to. Hank himself has since been rescued. His soul has been restored. He's on my particular protection team, so I get to speak with him quite regularly. He does not like talking about the time he spent there. It was very traumatic for him. But he does from time to time tell me what it was like. Yes, his mother, sister, and brother were all killed in the attacks on the Tau Setian system. I think it was the ones that were used to cover up the 911 event.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. They have since also been restored and brought back to life. So one of the things you got to remember, when we say anything is curable, even death itself, we are not kidding. Hank's family has been brought back to life. It's a little harder to restore a planet, but I do know that that's being worked on. It takes a lot more effort and a lot more time. But the people who died in that attack have largely been since recovered and brought back to life. Those who haven't opted to be born somewhere else in another family or another species, because sometimes people choose to do that. Sometimes they choose, I had that life, I'm going to go on to the next thing. Even if they have the option to be brought back alive, they don't always take it. But Hank's family has come back alive, and his two siblings and his mother are all teammates of his right now, although they're not on my particular protection team, and they've been invaluable in the fight to help save Earth. So, did I miss any questions in there?
No. And the rest of what they said was basically, commentary. It was, if ever there was a wet flannel thrown on to dampen our hopes, it is things such as this. I cannot fathom how much evil and destruction can take place against those who have no right whatsoever to undergo such dreadful pain. I've been hurt many times myself and others in my life, and I know the enormous depths it can plunge us into. As for Hank and his family, plus the planet that was destroyed, can you offer commentary? And you just did.
Yeah.
So,
please don't despair. Yeah. Everything can be fixed. Nothing gets broke so bad that it can't be restored somehow.
Okay. Have you mentioned that the reptoids are under an extinction protocol?
Sunfire?
Yeah, they are. But it's not something that can be handled overnight, and it's only specifically the Draco and the Hydras, not all reptilians, because there are many, many, many positive and neutral reptilian species out there.
And they're not affected by this.
Right.
And an extinction protocol is a Galactic Federations of Planets thing. It is a protocol used by the Galactic Federation of Planets basically to say, okay, we won't attempt to parley because we know that these people are treacherous and are going to try to destroy us, and we have decided that the best action we can take is to remove them.
And this is only when they are a direct threat to a significant portion of creation and existence, not, just like a minor threat. The Greys, for example, they're all parasitic and negative, and they've caused the extinction of multiple races and species and planets out there, and so to the Draco, and so to issue an extinction protocol is only in the interest of protecting the rest of existence and creation and, the stability of the entire universe, not, just the galaxy alone.
Yeah, it's not something that gets pulled out for people we don't like. It's something that gets pulled out for people who are a genuine threat to many other people. Next.
Okay. All right. Scroll to the next question. I had this vision when I was 18, but it's still so very clear. Zone between awake and asleep, a silver shiny orb comes towards me. When it gets close, I can see into the orb. There is a table covered in red velvet-looking material with gold embroidery around the edge. There is a crown on the table, gold with rounded edges. There is an arm of a man, and I see a sleeve of some sort of robe with a loose cuff hanging down. Is this the same material that covers the table? Wait, it is the same material that covers the table, red, with the gold embroidery. In his hand, he holds a crescent and passed the crescent over the crown 3 or 4 times. That was it. What could this possibly mean? Sounds like...
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay. Drake, do you have any comment on that? Red robes and gold trim and crescents and... Crowns? Might that be Illuminati stuff, or... Hello, Drake?
I think we might have lost Drake. Either that or he's sitting on his mute button again.
No.
There?
We lost him. He's back, and I just had to unmute his mute button there. Yeah,
Oh.
You dropped it, but you're back, and I had to unmute your mute button.
Yeah. Anyway, this goes to magic and theory and practice applications. When you strike or request or require something thrice or 3 times, it invokes the perfection of geometry, sacred geometry, better known as triangulation. People call it a trident. Some call it, other things. What it deals with is that the crescent moon is considered a scimitar, meaning that it can cut also meaning that it can offer a cleansing through what's known as the silver light. There's a whole bunch of stuff goes into this. What you have to remember about this is that, number one, you've not been given the full ceremony. At the beginning of such a ceremony, the intent, purpose, and culmination or result is given. You might want to look it up. It's in the Book of the Illuminati source code. That's the name of the book. And what it gives is it gives the parameters for wearing the red robe. Red is supposedly a color of war and or blood and or certain blood purities. There's a whole bunch of things goes into that. Then you have the crown itself. Which one is it? Is it a 5-point, 6-point, or a 7-point? Those are the only three numbers, supposedly, in ritualistic magic that are applicable. You can get into 11s and things of that nature, but it's a combination of one of the others. So, what color were the jewels? Which way was it facing? Between which 2 points was the crescent passed? I mean, you've got a whole bunch of real intricate and delicate and resultant type things that are implied and put into that. You cannot generalize it. So, as I said, the Illuminati source code book is one of your best. If you can get it off the internet, do so. You can look it up in, let's see, what is it? Royal Crowns. Let's see, Initiation of Crown Effects, and a few other places. That's what I would suggest, because these things, and here's the other problem, you got more than one definition for each of the things mentioned. That's another problem. This is why the beginning of the ceremony, intent, purpose, and intended resultant are very important. Next.
Okay. All right. Okay, we've gotten 2 more pages of questions since we answered that one question. Okay. I think I may have had ET contact. During meditation, I had a vision of an unusual-looking woman with a very dark skin like African people, but she had very long, wavy hair, and her facial features seemed more Caucasian than African. She was wearing a long rainbow-colored robe, and there was very calm, etheric presence about her. Do you think that this could have been someone from the planet Nikote?
Sounds like it, especially if she had honey yellow or golden eyes or coffee brown eyes. Then likely it was a person from the planet of Nikote. Their hair tends from wavy to very, very curly and short and tight curls. Some of them grow it very long. Some of them grow it very short. Their features range. Some have more Caucasian-like features, while others have more African features. Though they are the primary progenitor of the African people, they generally only make up about 30% of African genetics. So remember that they're the single largest group, but certainly not the only contributor.
Okay.
And that is for why there are actually, and anybody who's studied ethnicity and race seriously and without bias will know that there are actually way more differences between, and when I'm talking differences in body, facial structure, things like that, between ethnic groups within Africa who are all dark-skinned than there are between some European groups, and even between some African groups and European groups. So, when you think about things like race, remember that a lot of that is constructed. Next.
Right. Okay. I was watching a video where Alex Collier showed some of the symbols of Andromedans used to communicate and explain their meanings. One of them was a symbol for contact with Andromeda. I decided to try and project this symbol outward in the intention of making contact. Almost a few seconds later, I had a vague vision of a green-skinned being with pointed ears. I remember Tolek's description of a green-skinned race from the planet Tolika, who happened to have pointed ears. Do you think I made contact with a being from Tolika? And next time, how can I start an actual conversation with this being, or should I?
Well, it's likely that you made contact with an Andromedan if you used a specifically Andromedan contact symbol and then received a contact back from somebody who looked like a described Andromedan. It's quite likely that's exactly what you did. As for communication, how you would do it is you would project your thoughts outward to them in the form of the message. And you can make this into words. They'll understand you. And then listen back in the same way. It's sometimes hard for us to hear because we aren't used to telepathy. But once you get the hang of it, it's really not all that hard. Usually you'll start to feel people's emotions first, or get images or a sense of, amusement or whatever and greeting. But yeah, you can do that. Just remember to not let them into your body. Do not let them into your mind. You can listen to them without having them crawl down your ear and shout, right? Next.
Right. Okay. I often have very vivid dreams that leave me feeling completely drained. In those dreams, I always have a very hard time opening my eyes properly, like I'm too tired to keep them open. Last week I was having one of those dreams again, and at one point, all of a sudden, my vision went completely dark, and I felt a presence coming up to me. I could feel the being hugging me and I asked who it was. The answer seemed to be telepathic, and the words that came through were, "A dear friend of yours." It felt as if he or she was trying to tell me that they loved me very much, and the energy felt very warm and soothing. Then the being gave me an envelope with some sort of gift voucher in it. Then the dream ended. Do you think that I had actual contact with an ET friend or relative? And why do I continually have these? Yeah. Why do I continually have these dreams where I can't seem to open my eyes?
It's entirely possible. I don't know what the voucher's all about. Sorry to say. It's entirely possible and indeed likely that you had contact with a relative or a friend. I don't know why you can't see in your dreams and why you feel sleepy. In these episodes, I had one friend who every time she astral projected, she was blue. No matter what she did, she couldn't change this. She was always blue, and all she could see was blue. So, variations occur, and we don't always know why.
Okay. Did you have any comment on that, Sunfire?
No, I think Tanaath answered that perfectly fine. Next.
Oh, okay. All right. Next then. Okay. Okay. Just one moment. Got to scroll back. I'm copying questions at the end, and I got to keep going back to where the leave-off point. Okay. Let's see. Next question. I'm getting a roar from somewhere, and I don't know where it's coming from. Are you guys hearing that?
I can kind of hear it, but not very loud.
Really?
Okay. All right. I have been seeing a certain vision over and over again for days now, and I don't have an explanation for it, just a strong feeling about it. What I see is 1 minus 1 equals 0. It brings up an image of a zero line, like a line with a zero and then more of a line, and with a plus 1 above it and a minus 1 below it. And a feeling that the feeling that I have about it is that something about maybe the event where everything goes to 0, everything including time. 1 minus 1 equals 0. I was wondering if you knew anything about this or why I'm doing this.
Well, Drake, you're the numbers man.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, it's a true mathematical statement. 1 minus 1 equals 0, according to our present mathematics. Secondarily, the idea of the manner of presentation, you should have a 1 positive at the top, either 1 minus or 0 in the middle, and or a 1 minus or 0 at the bottom. Should have. It can start out the opposite direction. Any of the three in any order is still correct. Even though you can't divide by zero in our mathematics, you can in some others. So take a close look at the feeling that you get of it, and you'll get more of an answer, more of a definition that you can express better. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Drake. All right. He's our mathematical whiz. Okay. All right. Just got to get to the right point here. All right. I'm confused about why the Silver Legion ships are unable to land as apparently Andromedan ships can land, such as the one that Hank used and ones talked about by both Tolek and Alex Collier. And I assume that many Andromedan ships had to be used for the clean-out and rescue missions in the multiple undersea bases that were taken out. If they can land, why can't y'all? And if y'all can't land, then can you hitch a ride with the Andromedans when they come and go?
For one, this is a very recent thing. It was not an overnight development. It was not something that was present throughout the duration. This is a recent thing. We know that certain of our allies have had difficulties while others have not. As for hitching a ride on their ships, we've tried this too and had difficulties as well. So it seems that there is something that specifically wants to keep us out. I can hazard a guess as to why. Largely because we stand too much of a risk of actually helping. Not to say that other groups are not helpful, but we are a military group and pose different threats than civilian groups do to the establishment and the cabal and those hidden interests. So we can understand why they've been trying to keep us out, and it's not going to last forever. We do intend to be fully involved with the emancipation of humanity, and helping afterwards, after transition, especially in helping Earth establish its own defensive force to become self-sufficient, so that nobody else can ever come and bully boy you guys like a nasty bully in a schoolyard anymore. Next.
Oh, and I just wanted to clarify that Hank was not part of the Andromedans or Andromeda Council. Hank is Federation.
Hank says very much Federation.
Yeah.
Okay. Tolek mentioned in his past interviews that there are two other 3D races of people who are also waiting to be transported to this new 3D planet along with Earth people. Tolek mentioned that their home planet is going through 4D evolution. Do you have any detailed knowledge about this, and could you describe the details about the two other races of 3D people if you have any knowledge of them?
I don't. That's a Tolek.
Yeah. I would say ask Tolek because, it's Tolek's information, so Tolek's going to know the answer to that.
Okay. All right. Tolek mentioned rules to the use of fourth-dimensional abilities like telepathy, such as not listening in on conversations or trying to go into someone's mind. What happens if someone gets caught doing this? Would it be time in a jail cell?
Usually if we catch somebody doing something like that, we treat them like an enemy combatant. It's not, especially in a circumstance here on Earth, anybody doing that to people on Earth has not got people's best interests in mind, and this is a war, so they'd be treated like an enemy combatant. However, if it was to happen not in a state of war, then the reparations would be between that being and the person that they abused. We don't have jail cells. We don't have incarceration, so to speak. In some times we have a form of stasis or containment, and in some times we have something that's kind of like a house arrest, but we don't have jails like people in the United States think of them. It's not necessary. It doesn't fix anything. All you really accomplish with that, with an incarcerated population like the United States have, is stealing time from people.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything to heal them or correct the problem.
No, and it doesn't address the underlying social situation that produces crime in the first place. Either the social situation, the economic situation, or the health and mental situation that goes into it. Crime doesn't happen in a bubble. It's not a matter of criminals. This notion of a criminal is something of a constructed notion. In a lot of cases, if you look at who's being incarcerated, it's very, very specific groups, and that is a testament to institutional racism and institutional ableism, because it's largely people of color and the disabled, particularly the mentally disabled, who are incarcerated. And if you look at incarceration in the United States, it's big business. It has nothing at all to do with stopping crime or serving justice. It has everything to do with contracts and money. That does not help society. That does not give a person an opportunity to heal and become a better person. It's just a money-making scam. Next. Okay,
I know this question has been asked a number of times, but I don't know if it's from somebody who's new or what. But once we become 4D, will we have memories of our past lives right away, or might it take some time for our past life memories to sink in or catch up with us?
You will have some right away. Others may take longer to sort of trickle through.
Okay. Very simply put. Good answer. Good answer. Yay. Okay. How does the GFP ensure that the militarized section of it does not become too powerful, and how can this be applied to the future New Earth?
Well, when it comes to the Galactic Federation of Planets, the military and the civilians, there's no concept of power and control and domination. It's like they're two cohesive units. It's like living peacefully together, and so I think that's probably what we're going to try to help introduce here on Terra is the concept of working as two cohesive units. The military aspects of the Federation and the Federation members are purely for defense purposes without the whole expansion and domination and control of other races or other planets or anything like that. And, so as far as trying to keep them from gaining too much power, it's not even a problem to begin with. It's not something that is a concern.
Our militaries also are not based on hierarchy, indoctrination, and abuse either. They're structured quite differently than the militaries on Earth. There is rank, but rank basically denotes different kinds of jobs, not who's higher in the pecking order.
Right, and something like, that's very different as far as the military up there versus the military down here. The military here on the planet, the higher you go, the less responsibility, the less work you have to do. It's more about prestige. Up there, the higher you go, the harder you work, the more responsibility you have, the more work you have to do. So, it's not, gaining in position or rank is not, done for the prestige. It's done and given when, a person or an individual shows the ability to handle the requirement and really, shows that they're capable of handling that amount of responsibility.
Okay.
Next.
Okay. All right. Okay. My question is in regard to the comment that Terra needs to be nuclear-free before she ascends, and I think that I fully understand why. My question is that the window or time frame for doing this cleanup seems to be rather short, say 6 months, and would the new technologies be put in place prior to the cleanup of the nuclear reactors, weapons, and facilities? It seems like a lot needs to be done in a very short time span. Your thoughts?
Yes, because we can't leave a vacuum in the grid. That would be really, really bad. People right now rely on electricity to live. we can clean up the nuclear stuff on this planet in a matter of days if we are able to work openly en masse, which we are not currently.
Okay.
It can be done, and it will be done. So don't worry, it will happen. Next.
Okay. I've heard once that using higher dimensional abilities or magic of some kind will not only leave you tired from the expenditure, but could also cause anomalies in our world, like distortion. Does this happen often or ever?
It can happen, but it depends on what kind of magic you're doing. Most uses of magic don't lead to anomalies. If you're messing around with reality shifting, that will definitely lead to anomalies if you're successful. And yes, it does involve the expenditure of energy, which anybody who's ever practiced magic will tell you definitely happens. You get tired. This isn't like pushing a paperclip around.
Okay. This next one was, I think, directed at Drake, but any one of you can answer. Where can I find a good source for the real history of Earth? Are we going to be able to know the truth after we ascend to 4D? Any book or source to start with that could explain our real history starting about 500,000 years ago? What about the Inca stones?
I would recommend, for one, looking at the, there's a link on bibliotechapleiades.com or .net, something like that, called Galactic History According to the Andromedans, which is the Andromedans that are in contact with Alex Collier. Also, going back and looking at as many of the direct translations of the ancient tablets and that kind of thing. Aside from that, I recommend those like Brad Steiger, Joseph Robert Jockmans, Graham Hancock. The Ancient Alien series is a really good source, but my complaint about the Ancient Alien series is they try to fit way too much history into short of time frames. So if you add about 10,000 to 100,000 years to the time frames that they're giving and stretch it out and realize there's even more details that they're leaving out because they haven't quite got it all yet, then, you'll get at least a good basis for it. The Federation, though, is planning and does have a database, and we will be releasing as much of the ancient history and the complete history of the planet, the galaxy, the solar system as is possible as soon as possible.
Unabridged.
Yeah. Unedited, uncorrupted, without the this is how we want you to believe it. It's the unbiased version.
Unbottlerized.
Yeah.
Okay. Tolek said back in 2011 that there would be a counterclockwise 90-degree rotation of Earth's crust by late March of 2013. How come this didn't happen, and is it still scheduled to happen?
You'd have to ask Tolek.
Yeah. But likely not, but I would suggest asking Tolek why it didn't happen.
Okay. And if it's still going to happen.
I apologize. Okay. That was a big bang of thunder, and I don't know if you heard it.
I heard it.
Something struck close.
And Drake, I think, is muted out because of the crash, boom, bang.
No,
okay.
I just got it turned off.
Oh, okay. All right. Robert Morning Sky's work highly resonates with me, so much so that I wish to assist him in his work. But before I do that, I wish to know your opinion and the Silver Legion's opinion of him.
Being that I'm not very familiar with his work, I can't give an opinion. Once again, use your discernment in all sources. If it resonates well with you, and you feel that you can work with it, then do what you can. Many people who do this are well-intentioned. If you feel that he's one of them, please follow your heart. Follow your heart in all things. If he's channeling, maybe you can convince him that this isn't a very good idea. But everybody knows my key with channeling. Remember that even people who don't have the whole truth can still get some of it right, whether it's deliberate and on purpose, or whether it's in spite of. Either way, take the things that are true and use them.
Okay. About the possible different versions of ourselves in other universes, you mentioned through quantum jumping. Do those versions have different spirits, or do all versions of ourselves come from the same spirit?
All versions of yourself come from the same spirit. That doesn't necessarily mean, well, let's put it this way. If you think of the notion that all things are possible and all things happen, there is a paradox involved in this unless you consider the possibility for simultaneous multiple alternate realities, universes, timelines, etc. In such a way, can you experience everything that there is to experience without having to break from the linear feel or the feeling of being a distinct being? So yes, you share a spirit with them. They are you in a way, but that does not mean that the you that is conscious in this universe and this reality and this timeline would always agree or resonate with the things that they do, because yes, somewhere there is an evil you, just like somewhere there are other good yous. There are probably a lot of good yous, of which you are one. So, yeah, think of it that way. Next.
Okay.
Hopefully that didn't confuse more.
Right. Could there be other benevolent ETs here on Terra that you're not aware of?
Of course there could be.
Of course, yeah.
If there are, we would suggest them to come forward and contact our people so that we can combine our efforts instead of being separate in our efforts. It is a very big universe out there, and there are no fewer than 500 species that we know of who have been in contact with this planet alone. The ones that have been in contact that we don't know of, there's bound to be some of them. So, yes, it is entirely possible that there are benevolents we don't know about.
Okay.
And I would say, as long as they actually are benevolent, power to them.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Supposedly the sociopaths are currently working on surrender negotiations. Is this true?
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, and even if they surrender to the Terrans, that doesn't mean the Federation will recognize that surrender.
We would be very, very alert to the possibility of false surrender, and even a real surrender would not get them off the hook. Surrender wouldn't mean that they'd be able to get off scot-free and go back to being abusive. It would mean that they would have to cease their hostile activities against any living being.
Okay. Ready for the next question?
Yep. Next.
We're up to 31 pages now.
Oh, goodness.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mushrooms. It is raining.
Sometimes I kind of wish people would concentrate and listen to what we're sharing, because in all likelihood we may answer your question. But then I think people are getting ahead of themselves, and they're waiting to hear their question, and they're really not listening. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, that's just my opinion, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. Okay.
This is why I'm very glad that we have the transcription, because people will be able to go in with keyword search and maybe find their specific question already asked with an answer there. Or if it hasn't been answered fully, they'll be able to formulate a rational question asking for the specific details that they want.
Right. Okay. Okay, this is for Drake. Since the Bretton Woods Agreement was made by crooks on both sides of the ocean, why would having the collateral accounts changing hands be good for the people who it was stolen from?
Because Bretton Woods was a piece of garbage designed to enhance the power of the people holding the finances, not we the people. That's the basic difference, okay?
Okay.
I think what they're looking for is assurance that it's not going to be another Bretton Woods.
Yeah. That's
exactly.
the impression I get. Yeah. Okay. On a previous show, you spoke about making crop circles and how most of them were a joke. If it is possible to make a joke crop circle here on Earth, why is it not possible to help starving children and people who are stuck in the middle of an unwanted war and so forth? Not trying to sound disrespectful, I have nothing but respect for the Universal team and the ETs.
Okay, this is actually a really good question, but I'll tell you it's also a bad question because it's built on a false dichotomy as its premise. It is assuming that if we are doing one, we can't do or we aren't doing the other. Crop circles, think of it this way. A crop circle is like you folding a paper airplane and throwing it across your office. You can do that even if you're still working. You can do that without stopping your productivity for the day. You can do that without botching an entire mission. You can do that without destroying a contract, etc., whatever. It's just a little bit of fun. It's a little playing around. In some cases, it actually has a useful purpose, as in the usages of sacred geometry. Now, in the cases of children starving in Africa, what we are dealing with is not a simple solution. Even if we were to give every starving person on this planet food tomorrow, people would still die. Why? Because starvation is a process. Starvation does not occur when you skip lunch for 3 weeks. Starvation occurs when you go without significant nutrition, or without adequate nutrition for a long period of time. The treatment is likewise long and medically intense. Solving starvation in Africa involves a great deal of work. Not only is that intense medical treatment necessary for all those millions of people who are in trouble and needing the aid, but the entire social system and infrastructure must be overhauled so that those people can get that treatment. It is not something that could be done in an instant. Even if we could materialize food in front of them, it would not necessarily solve the problem. You have to treat starvation very, very specifically. We're not able to operate openly. Once we are able to operate openly, I tell you this, helping people who are starving is going to take precedence over giving rich North Americans and Europeans bragging rights to tell their friends, I told you so.
Yeah. Humanitarian aid is the number one priority of the Federation, the Silver Legion, the Andromeda Council, basically everybody involved in the liberation forces. We are going to help the starving and the poor first before we help anybody else.
Yes, need before being able to say, I told you so.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way. And, yeah, it's definitely in the plans. And, don't take this as a slight. There are North Americans who are in dire straits and who will fall under the humanitarian circumstances as well. Because just because you live in North America or Europe doesn't mean that you're rich. Greece is in bad shape, for instance. The First Nations and reserves of North America are often highly impoverished. It's the ones who've been oppressed, the ones who've been downtrodden, the ones who need relief the most will get it first.
Okay, if good ETs have been able to interfere in disabling nuclear weapons, why can't they disable the chemtrail planes?
They've been working on that. Nuclear weapons are, think of it this way, a chemtrail plane, or the chemtrail planes are like swarms and swarms of flies. If you've only got fly swatters, and there are a heck of a lot of flies, and it's outdoors, it becomes very, very difficult to take care of them. Nuclear bombs, on the other hand, they're obvious, they're usually singular or isolated, and they're easy to grab for some reason. So chemtrails are a heck of a lot harder to deal with conclusively than nuclear bombs for that reason.
Good answer. Okay. Is it possible that we are already entering 4D? There is a feeling of peace and no fear, or ignoring all the crap from television. Are those and are the animals that are dying all around the world already in 4D?
Yes, we are. Some of us are entering into 4D. It's a process, as I've mentioned before. We're already within certain aspects of 4D. Some of us are developing four-dimensional thought ahead of the game, and that is serving us well, and that is aspects of fourth-dimensional thought that you are relating there. We tend to think of 4D, the entry into 4D is the moment in which our bodies pass to the 4D, but in truth, as it is a process, much of us already goes ahead of time into that without our bodies or before our bodies do. And yes, some of the animals that are vanishing and or appearing to perish in the third dimension are going to the next dimension. Others are just getting out of here because they don't want to go into the next dimension. That doesn't stop it from being horrific, that people are, or rather I should say that the Cabal are doing things that destroy nature and habitat and animals on a mass scale or torment them on a mass scale. That doesn't excuse that or permit that or mitigate that. But yes, some of these animals are forerunners to the fourth dimensions as well. Next.
Okay. Tanaath, if there are galactic wars still going on, is it feasible that the Galactic Federation could lose this war and thus doom mankind on Earth?
If we lose this war, it's only because we've been doomed too. So if we're all doomed, we're in good company, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't see that happening.
Right. And, you know, at this point, we've pretty much won the war. It's a matter of just finishing, you know, winning the battles and doing the cleanup and rounding up the last of the opposing side. So I don't have any, you know, I don't have any fear of, you know, of the liberation forces, Galactic Federation planets included, losing the war.
Yeah, it's not likely to happen, and in the very, very unlikely event that it does happen, it's because the Galactic Federation probably no longer exists and has been defeated. That would take a much, much more immense group of enemies than we currently face.
Yeah.
Much, much more immense.
Okay. Years ago, there was a television show called Unsolved Mysteries, where a woman was told by her doctor that she had cancer. She went home and she prayed. While reclining on her bed, a small flying saucer about the size of a tennis ball came through the wall and hovered over her body, and she felt peace and energy. She went to the doctor and was told she was free of cancer. My question is, why was this woman so lucky? How did the ETs know?
Beats me. Maybe that was a relative of hers who had the capacity to do that.
Yeah, maybe it was a guardian. And, you know, in a story like this, what I would suggest is that it would be of good encouragement for others to, you know, that have ailments to attempt connecting with your guardians and your people.
Just don't make it your sole attempt. Where things become ethically problematic is if you're making it your sole attempt.
Okay. Next question. I recently read Lana Cantrell's The Greatest Story Never Told. In this book, she proves scientifically and with historical artifacts that we all used to have green skin. We will revert back to having green skin, and that we will revert back to having green skin after the transition. Is this true?
No. We don't all have green skin. We didn't all used to have green skin. There are as many colors in humanity and other species as there are colors in the rainbow. Green is just one of them. Yeah. There are some of our ancestors who did have green skin. The Tolikans, as mentioned before, tend to have green skin and pointy ears.
Yep. Okay.
But they're not our only ancestors. And we're not all going to turn green. Some of us might. Some of us might turn blue. The Zenithai are blue.
Uh-huh.
Okay, next question.
There's some out there, there's some out there that have purple skin.
Oh, yeah. All the colors of the rainbow, guys. All the colors of the rainbow, and some that you can't see now.
Next.
Okay, cool. I've been slowly waking up and opening my eyes now for about 10 years. It seems to me I actually learn while I speak. For example, when explaining ETs or the Cabal or self-love to my mother, wisdom comes out of my mouth that I never thought of before. Is this how we are teaching ourselves, by teaching others? Sometimes I feel like you may be even explaining things. Right, so then they say, sometimes I feel like you may be even explaining things to us that you have never thought of until you have said it to us for the first time. What do you think?
Yeah, we call that tapping into the universal source energy field or information field.
Yeah, or even tapping into your higher self. I mean, sometimes you develop, at that point, your higher self decides to open a more stronger, direct connection and kind of exert itself more than it does normally.
In any situation where you have a learner and a teacher, the teacher is learning as much as the learner.
Right. And that's kind of why I keep emphasizing that, the people, they think that, only the Terran population is learning from the ETs, and it's actually very much a mutual learning process. They're learning stuff, as well as we're learning. And it's a mutual two-way street.
Okay. This is a Bashar one. Okay, this is a Bashar one. He gave a description of an energy device that is 2 interlocking spiral cones inside a pyramid. Does this sound anything like any device that you know of?
I don't really. I'm not the techie person. I would be cautious with it unless you know what it does or is supposed to do.
Have you heard anything about that? Drake?
I knew I'd get back on the show sometime. There are there's a variety of different combinations of tech applications. Let's see here, and mechanics involved. And I would rather express that it's easier to not try to express something that doesn't translate into any of our understanding at this point. It's easier not to fool with that. I will suggest, yes, I'm familiar with several of those, but it's best not to get into something that does not agree with present physics, among other things. Okay?
Okay. Okay, ladies, what is the name of that Andromedan gay planet, and how do these inhabitants look like? I mean, I think they mean, what do these inhabitants look like?
Okay, it's actually Federation. It is Andron.
Oh,
Federation.
Yes, they're talking about the Androni.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Federation. They're actually not Andromeda Council, although sharing the same star system as Nicote, and they are both Federation and Andromeda Council. Andron is the name of the planet, and yes, it should not surprise you that we get the root of words such as androgens and androgynous and philanthropy and things like that from that, because the root of that language forms the root of ancestral Greeks. As for what Androni look like, they tend to be about 5'0" to 5'5", heavily muscled, not steroidsy muscled, but definitely looking like bodybuilders, even when they're not. And this is because Andron has 3 times the gravity of Earth, and they tend to have tightly curled to wavy hair that tends to run about mid-brown to coal black or even blue-black. The shape of their facial features is very, very classical Greek, which, again, should be no surprise since they are the genetic forebearers of the Greeks. Not all of them are gay, but most of them are. The women mostly fraternize with the women, and the men mostly fraternize with the men. And they come together in contract marriages to have families and make children, and it works very well for them, and they like it. The men tend to get involved in the more martial aspects and are part of the Federation's elite ground fighting force and elite navy. And they're very, very strong allies of Earth. We have Andron to thank for a great many things, such as feta cheese, olives, and pomegranates, yes, also known as Androni apples, and winemaking, a personal favorite of mine. Andron has a very Mediterranean climate all over the planet and is composed of island continents and archipelagos. It doesn't have a lot of continental mass. The Androni are seafarers by ancestry and have taken this to space, so they really love their sailing. Their eyes tend to run any color of the rainbow and all have this very, very beautiful crystalline quality to them. And they tend to change color when they have different moods, too. Mood ring eyes. It's very pretty.
And they all have a mischievous spark to them.
Oh, yes, they're very mischievous.
And I would say that, they have nightclubs, they have, very modern to futuristic style buildings, and, I mean, it's a very beautiful planet.
Okay. Oh, okay. You ready for the next question?
Yep.
Okay. Scrolling. Okay. What is the name?
There are also some blonde among. There's also blondes that are. I was going to say there's also
it's not common. Most of the blondes are a result of breeding outside. The Androni population actually had a genetic crisis several 100,000 years ago, and as a result were recommended to form contract marriages with non-Androni in order to bring in some fresh genetics, and many have done so. Sorry, Denise, what was your question? Or what was the question? Sorry.
The question is, we talk a lot about higher dimensions, but if someone were actually to spirit project back to 2D or 1D, what do those places look like?
2D and 1D are basically variations in consciousness. They're both physical. We share space with 2D and 1D right now here in 3D. So it is actually a form of consciousness. And you probably would not want to go back because you would lose a lot of what makes you a conscious 3D human if you tried to do that. Now, you could do it temporarily for learning's sake or the sake of, just wanting to know, but you'd have to be careful not to get trapped. Certain forms of animal consciousness and plant consciousness are closer to 2D. If you think of like viruses and bacteria and very, very basic consciousness, you're looking at 2D and 1D consciousness. 0D consciousness, I guess you could say, is barren worlds before they start breeding life. Though the world itself may have higher dimensional potential.
Okay.
Next.
Okay. All right. Had a long one I had to copy there. Okay. How many of the so-called crashed and retrieved UFO vehicles were actually shot down or were they outrightly given to us as teasers?
How many, I don't know. It's impossible to say how many without knowing the true number that were downed. We don't have that statistic. For one thing, we know roughly how many of our own were down or lost, and they weren't given as gifts in most cases, but we have no idea how many crashed that the enemy gave or that were legitimately crashed that other people had. There were definitely cases where this is what happened, where a craft was downed deliberately in order to sort of give it as a gift to the cabal to reverse engineer. That's where the Black Triangle naval ship, I can't remember the call sign for that one.
TR3B.
Yeah, the TR3B. That's where the tech that went into that came from. It's just such a circumstance, a downed craft.
Okay. All right. Can Tanaath or Sunfire tell us more about how the sun can be used as a stargate? And if possible, can they tell us where to look for more real information using the sun as a stargate?
Well, all stars are stargates, they're seagates, and as far as where to look for the information to use the stargate, that's classified information, and it will not be released to Terrans, most likely.
Not at this time, anyway.
Yeah.
That's something that will come later on when you have your own sovereign fleet.
And
because
then,
we don't need to give that information away to the Cabal.
Yeah. When they're completely and fully removed and have no chance of accessing the information.
We would rather not let them run away to go pee in somebody else's bed.
Right. I mean, do you really give somebody like that the keys to an entire universe? Nope. Especially, that can involve time travel? Nope. Because that's the nature of stargates. With stargates, you can go anywhere in space and anywhere in time. And we don't want them having that ability any more than they already do.
Okay. Okay, I'm not going to ask that one. That's more of a question for Drake's show. Has to do with banking. Okay. I have a question about 4D. After Earth ascends to 4D, will people in 4D be able to make themselves more muscular or smaller or, without using a gym?
Likely. If you want to really learn something, though, you have to do it. But in terms of making yourself capable, there are ways to alter yourself that are non-intrusive and not like body modification sort of thing.
Okay. Also, what will happen to the astral plane after Earth transitions to 4D?
It'll still be a spirit realm. I don't know exactly what will happen to the local one, because the local one is artificially created. I guess that it's going to merge in with the rest of the spirit realms in that correspond roughly to that dimension.
Okay. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Okay. If President Obama is a clone, are Michelle and his children also clones? Your opinion. I think this was asked of Drake on his show, but
I think it's likely. I don't have that information for sure.
Yeah. I'm sticking with that one.
Okay. Do the founders work with your federation? They have channeled several books via their channel. Saul Rochelle seems to be in line with your messages.
We don't channel. I'm not too sure who is referred to as the founders. That sounds like I'm not familiar with this message, but the Galactic Federation of Planets and the Andromeda Council both have a ban on channeling. So if these beings work with us, then they're likely either not associated with us directly. Yeah, I don't know who that is either. They're not likely either not working with us directly or they're not working with us at all, and I think that the latter is probably more likely, considering that we have a very strong stance on channeling.
I was just informed that no, they have absolutely no association with the Galactic Federation of Planets, and basically they've been found to, if anything, be ones that take our information that we release or they get through other sources and then feeding it and claiming it as their own information. Like they're trying to take a ride on the coattails of the Federation without our permission.
Likely all they found was an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody should by now know our stance on channeling. And once again, remember, people, use your discernment. There may be some good buried in some of these messages. Yes, there may be somebody who's positive who's doing this. But it is all too often used as a hostile takeover method, and it is all too often used as an act of war. Therefore, we do not support it as a general rule. If you find something of benefit in channeling, feel free to take that which you find beneficial. But don't feel obligated to take all of it, and practice your own shielding, grounding, and centering when you're taking in channeled messages so that you don't accidentally get boatload of mind control with it. Because often these things are fully embedded with mind control throughout.
And often these things
something?
are presented as positive messages, and they're from completely negative and evil forces. And this is specifically, a good part of the reason why the Federation and the Andromeda Council outright ban channeling and do not permit their members to participate in it.
A spoonful of sugar makes bad medicine go down. They have to include some truth, or nobody would ever pay it any attention.
Okay, can I add something? Do not share it on the Universal Voice either. We do not share channeling information. And if you do try to share it on the Universal Voice, it will be subsequently removed. And if you continue to repeat, go ahead, if you continue to post it, you will be removed as well.
I will state that many channelers got into it and are in it honestly, in that they have honest, good intentions and are trying to do good work, and I can applaud that. Unfortunately, I don't agree that channeling is the way to do that. I think it's a very harmful practice, personally, and in terms of getting across information, it can become very easy for well-intentioned people to become co-opted into something that they didn't agree to, or into something that if they knew the full extent of the truth that they wouldn't support. So yes, there's a lot of honest, well-intentioned, well-meaning people who do it. That doesn't mean that it's safe to do. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. And that doesn't mean that just because they have some truth in there, that the whole thing is God's honest truth. Be careful. Be very careful with that. That is a main form of warfare perpetuated and perpetrated by the Galactic Federation of Light, which is known to be a reptoid front.
Gotcha. Okay, next question comes from Brazil. I hope that either Sunfire, Tanaath, or Drake might answer this question. Why there aren't any Andromedans on the Andromeda Council board? Given that the Andromeda Council is supposed to be a governance body for the planets in the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies, and that there are 4 to 5 times as many star systems in the Andromeda galaxy than in the Milky Way, it strikes me as being very odd that the 12 voting members in the Andromeda Council Board are all Milky Wayans and that there is no Andromedan. Their home star systems are all in our Milky Way galaxy, correct?
That's something that you would have to ask of Tolek. But as I understand it, the ones that he's talking about are actually the local Andromeda Council representatives. The one that is a council for the Milky Way, because we know for a fact we've had encounters with the Andromedan side of the Andromeda Council and their council members as well. So they do exist. It's just that the ones you're hearing about are the relevant ones. They're the local ones.
Okay, just an announcement for our listeners out there. If you're submitting questions like in our chat or our Facebook page or email right now, I will let you know that we are on page 6 of 39 of questions. So, in all likelihood, we won't get to your question today. I just want to let you know that. Yeah. Okay? We take our questions, too, in the order in which they are received. Bear that in mind. Okay. I have a question. Let's see. Drake, I have been following the OPPT from their beginning, and I have used their documents with much success. You, on the other hand, are an avid supporter of Neil Keenan, although Neil Keenan continues to be directly in opposition with OPPT trustees and the work that they're doing. Meanwhile, it appears that you are a supporter of the OPPT. This doesn't make sense. Can you elaborate?
Absolutely. I do not support in any way, shape, or form something that's a falsie, that does not exist, does not have assets, has no offices where they say they are, and all that other happy stuff. It is a sham, it's a fraud, and I disagree with good people being sucked in by people that just want to stick their cold clammies down their pants. And that's my opinion, and my situation, and my position on that. Next.
I would like to submit a comment about that, and that is that the Silver Legion has absolutely nothing to do with the financial side of any of this. I'm not a trained economist or a lawyer or anything like that. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm not able to do my due diligence. In that situation, as far as the Silver Legion is concerned, we're backing the people we think are going to get this done. We do not have a financial position. We do not support a particular group. Please stop emailing me about the OPPT. I am not going to plug anyone. I don't plug Neil Keenan either. So when it comes to the finances, we don't feel that we are the appropriate body to support or deny any legitimacy in that particular realm of life.
Yeah, I was just, I want to say similar, aspects for the Federation. When it comes to the financial aspects of things, we're Switzerland. We're neutral. We don't have monetary systems. We don't have economic systems that come anything close to monetary systems. We understand this monetary system because it is based on a monetary system that comes from the reptoid planets in the Orion constellation. But we're staying completely neutral in respect to the financial system. We're here to help the people, and helping the people does not involve perpetuating a control system.
Okay. All right. Next question. How much of the influence does recall and memory of past lives affect speech and behavior in this life? I ask because I do not get the most positive, intuitive feeling from Sunfire due to her use of words such as and like and such things.
I would say that's probably knee-jerk programming. That is actually caused by associations built within this life, associations in your mind of whether somebody is intelligent or not. Yes, Sunfire does or ah. Even the best speaker ums or ahs, that is not an indication of intelligence or veracity or anything thereof. What an and an ah is a placeholder while you gather your thoughts. And you can be trained out of it, and I've had some training in that regard, which may occasionally show
I'm
through.
The worst. I'm the worst for that. But that's because I've got my eyes. I've got 6 windows open on the screen, and I've got questions coming in from all directions, and I'm scrolling up and down these pages, and
Sunfire is also from the West Coast, where they speak in a certain way, and if you've been trained to have a knee-jerk prejudice against people from the West Coast, and some people are trained in such a way, subtly through associations in language and belief and rhetoric, then you would probably find Sunfire offensive. Again, I would tell you to check your programming and try to work against it, because it's not necessarily doing you any good. It's preventing you from receiving, in this case. It's preventing you from getting clearly what we're trying to say.
Gotcha.
How many times have we heard one of our guys that we're talking to telepathically do that?
Or ah, or say like? What? I don't get your reference.
Yeah, the and the ah and...
Yeah, they even do it too.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's not quite exactly the same thing. It's not a verbal thing, but oftentimes it's used in place of when they're making it clear that you've asked a question that isn't quite a... Let me say, you're asking a different question than what you're trying to get an answer for.
Right. Like, for instance, some people will pause and they'll have just a moment of silence. Other people will say or while they're making that pause. That's just
yes. And we're on the radio. We don't like dead air.
Right. And then
exactly.
also,
so to keep the flow, you say Yeah.
Well, and then, sometimes I'm trying to translate concepts from one language into another because I get concepts in multiple languages being communications. And so, it's not always an instantaneous translation.
Right. Well, that's not my situation. I'm just juggling too many things at one time. Okay. All right. Next, several public figures, Marshall Vian Summers, Chris Thomas, and George Cazacias, have been sending out warnings to Earth humans that there is an intervention taking place on our planet that involves multiple collectives of non-Terran races who are using subversion and mental tactics to take control of our planet and resources, including humans themselves. Tanaath and Sunfire have repeatedly stated that the Galactic Federation of Planets is benevolent and has nothing but positive intentions, although the allies of humanity from Marshall Vian Summers' books, the messages are not channeled or telepathic, but radio broadcasts, say there are no benevolent races here at this time. Any race...
What, nobody's ever lied on the radio before?
Right. Yeah,
We've spoken about Marshall Vian Summers.
Let me say this one last time, and let me get this implicitly clear and perfectly straight. The Marshall Vian Summers and the Allies of Humanity material is one of the best pieces of military complex, industrial complex disinformation ever written.
And as for all of them at once telling us about beware of all these takeover attempts, it's so nice of them to warn us in advance of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Makes it a lot easier to combat them.
All right. Should I finish what they were saying? Let's see.
Sure. Radio, I will say for a moment here, radio does not make it any more genuine or truthful.
Right. Yep.
It just means it's a little easier for humans to receive clearly. Does not mean that it's any more truthful.
Right. Again,
Marshall Vian Summers is a disinformationist.
Okay, Marshall.
I said it again.
Okay, Marshall says that anyone involved in human interaction or affairs at this time has ulterior motive and goals. How can anyone trust that the Galactic Federation of Planets is only here in our best interest and is not working with the Cabal overtly, or that their intent is not to control us or our resources, or that the Galactic Federation of Planets will leave humanity to continue on our own path as sovereign beings once the Cabal is removed, when they are being deceived and misinformed from so many directions.
How can anybody trust any information from somebody like Marshall Vian Summers, who says that all ETs are evil, bad, and only out for themselves? That's no better than the people like Stephen Greer or the other ones that come out and say that all ETs are benevolent and there's no bad ones that exist, and yet hard evidence proves otherwise.
Right.
Yep. The truth of the matter is that it's a war. There is some that are against it, there are some that are for us, and there are some that really don't give a crap and aren't involved at all, or just pranking around. Marshall Vian Summers and his material falls on the highly hostile, highly negative end of the spectrum. It's very, very easy for them to go and say, you have no friends. It's a very big tactic to get you to not trust anyone. In this situation, what I would tell you is ask yourself. Trust yourself before you trust a talking head. Use your discernment. Obviously, extremes stating unequivocally one or the other are most likely false, because life never falls on either side of the extreme. Life falls somewhere in the spectrum. Only cartoons and fiction fall into the extremes, where one side is clear, where everything is either clearly all one or all the other. So ask yourself, what is the situation? Ask yourself, is this source trustworthy? Ask yourself, is each of these pieces of information correct? Are each of these pieces of information correct? Don't accept all of them whole. Analyze every single proposition and ask, is this correct? Is this correct? Is this correct? Don't take it all. Don't swallow it whole. Doesn't do you any good. Even when it comes to my own material, I can be mistaken. I don't think I am in a lot of cases. In some cases, I'm corrected, and then I'll correct myself. But I am capable of being mistaken. So, use your discernment. Go through each proposition individually and analyze it and examine it within yourself and decide for yourself, is this true? With the Marshall V. and Summer stuff, I would say it is not. It is a very clear attempt at disinformation and mistrust. If you're told that nobody loves you, everybody's against you, well, who do you turn to in a situation where you obviously need help? Because they are saying, oh, the whole universe is against you except for some people who are beyond your abilities to access, and we're not going to send you any help. But we're cheering for you. Well, sorry, that really does not help in any way. You might as well have just kept your mouth shut and stayed out of it with that level of input. All you're doing is sowing uncertainty, which helps nobody.
Yeah, and it's not the true reality. I mean, even, Kyla sharing his stories, proves otherwise, that there are those out there that are genuinely interested in helping to liberate this planet without any self-serving interest. And, the Federation is one of those. We have no interest in hanging around after the planet is liberated and you guys are capable of defending yourselves.
We don't want your resources.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, what would we take? Your oil, we'd like you to keep it in the ground. That's Mother Earth's blood, and we don't use fossil fuels. Your gold, we don't need it. We have replicators. You're welcome to that yellow metal that you have. Your people, no, we don't need that either. Those of you who want to come volunteer and come into space, that's great, but nobody's going to force you to. There's nothing on this planet that we need that we have to take by force. We have what we need. It's not a matter of stripping the planet of its resources. We're not the reptoids who practice slash and burn conquest.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay. All right. One more from that same person. If the Galactic Federation of Planets possesses advanced technology, so much so, why is the message being shared by Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire regarding current and future events on our planet only being broadcast in English on a very benign weekly internet show and obscure websites instead of being broadcast worldwide in every language? I understand that the broadcasts and websites are available worldwide on the internet, but many humans do not speak English or have access to the internet. How can the majority of humanity awaken and shake off the cabal when the information is limited only to a certain group? Why is the message not going out worldwide for all to hear, since the changes affect every living being on this planet?
Cool, and I got something to say about that. Hey, hold on. I think we got a volunteer to do just that. How many languages do you speak? Can you use your translator on your friggin' computer and get it to be published in Pravda and all these other places that do need to hear it? If so, we want to hear from you. Yeah, that's right. We could use some help with this. There's maybe a dozen of us doing this for all of humanity. What's the population of the planet? Hello. And where is it that a lot of people can't read? And how do you get to the people who spread knowledge by word of mouth? Let's get real here. We can use all the help we can get. If you're serious about that question, instead of playing games, get in touch with us. We can definitely use the help. I personally know how to use a translator, and I will show you how to use it. And you can submit things to Al Jazeera, which covers a lot of the Mideast. You can run things through Pravda. They are willing to accept articles of factual nature dealing with things of this nature. So, the press is already ready to go. Are you?
Additionally, we use ground forces. That is incarnates. Not all of our incarnates are awake, in a position to do this work, and fully cognizant of what they're doing. Additionally, we don't have access to a horde of mind-controlled minions who we can send out to do saturation techniques like certain groups we can mention.
And
we don't roll that way.
There's also that not all the incarnates are prepared to deal with the risks, the dangers, and, that kind of thing at this point. The Federation is not set up to properly protect them. We can protect them, in their current state, but,
we can protect them from physical threats. We can't protect them from getting fired. We can't protect them from losing their homes or their jobs or anything
their
like
family.
that. Yeah, or from ridicule. Our tech doesn't interface very well with the tech on this planet, so we can't set up a website yet directly. Or do things like that directly.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, you mentioned advanced technology. Our technology ranges in about the 10,000 years to a billion plus years advanced to Terra. It's not exactly compatible.
Especially when there has been a lot of effort made to keep higher dimensional positives out of the game, which means that the problem of our tech interfacing with your tech is made doubly complex or even trebly complex.
And like I said,
Go ahead.
And like I said, we're looking for a few good people. The peace will be won by the will of God and a few good Marines. And I need some people to dig some foxholes and trenches, get involved. And you can do so fairly anonymously through our websites. That's something that you don't know.
There are those who have been transcribing the interviews, and the next step is if we could have somebody do translation of those, and I would like double back.
It comes on my machine.
Oh, nice.
It goes into
and I would like
language.
particularly double back translation, because this is something that is too important to leave to bad translation.
Yeah,
we've tried using Dragon Naturally. We've tried using Dragon Naturally Speaking to transcribe the programs, but it can only seem to recognize one voice at a time, and we can transcribe what one person's saying. But when we have 3 or 4 people on a show interfacing, it turns the rest to gobbledygook.
I'm not talking about voice. I'm talking about printed transcript. Okay. The translator that I have on my machine, and it's fairly new, but it ain't the greatest in the world. It has the Windows translator, and it works. It'll go to Russian, Chinese, anything you want. If you would
I've been relying on Google.
Well, here's the other part. I've got a list of over 50 foreign countries that you can put this into their language. If you want something to do, you'd like to help, and we'd like to get this word out, then, like I said, contact us. Seriously. Okay?
Mhm. Okay. Next question. Ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Where do those with O-negative blood come from, since they cannot be linked to the rhesus monkey like the other blood types, and they cannot be linked to any living animals or mammals on Earth? They also have other traits, such as extra vertebrae and a rib, and cannot be cloned. Supposedly.
I would say probably that they have the highest concentration of pure ET genetics, most likely.
People that are O-negative blood are probably more pure ET?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all ET genetically engineered ET hybrids, but I would say that most likely they're like the purest and not
closer to the rootstock.
Yeah, there you go.
Less altered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they've had an ET in the recent family tree.
Aha. Okay. Let's see. Next question is, who is Maitreya, Maitreya? Is he or she good or positive influence to give any attention to? I see booths and information about Maitreya at many of these conferences that I've attended. I have stayed away, but I'm just curious. Thanks for all that you share, and blessings to you for all that you do.
I've had some people try to convince me that he's some kind of all-powerful so-and-so, and honestly, no. I'm very, very skeptical about something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say anybody that's claiming to be all big and powerful and mighty, and I'm the biggest, most powerful.
Yeah, somebody setting himself over me as the ultimate being? No, I don't think so. The ultimate being does not set itself over other beings because it is all beings. The ultimate being does not have a need to aggrandize itself and declare itself to be, the top dog, and everybody now needs to obey him and kiss his ass and worship him. Nope.
Right.
And a human doing so is pulling one over you.
And if it's not a human, 99% chance it's a reptoid.
Yep.
Okay. All right, next question. Will the Terrans of the future have blue skin?
Some will.
Yeah, some. I wouldn't say all. Some will. And some will have purple, some will have green, some will have pink, some will have beige, some will have chartreuse, turquoise, anything you could think of.
I imagine that we're going to be very, very surprised when we discover that despite what our commercials have told us, everybody in the universe finds us very, very attractive, and we'll probably be getting lots and lots of offers. So, yeah, I'm imagining that the Terrans of the future are going to be continue to be a well-mixed group.
Okay. Let's see. Drake, if a person is not that interested nor impressed with the latest 3D technology, such as iPhones, Google, social media, iPads, smart meters, appliances, etc., would that be a clear indication that they're not quite ready to move into 4D and embrace the new technology that 4D offers? Or would transition be based more on a spirituality rather than one's interest in technology?
The twisted transition is done at a soul level and then is manifested one way or the other here in 3D. It has.
I would say if a person is not super interested in iPads and whatever latest thing Apple has vomited out or the Android market has put up or Google has flushed out for us, I would say that they're a well-balanced human being who's grounded in reality.
Yeah.
And I'll say something
further. And they're not
going
to miss out on anything.
And there's something further. I find this extraordinarily difficult in a lot of ways because I am technically oriented. Now, however, I have gotten to a point where I hate my computer. It's addictive. Ooh, yeah, texting and the phones and all this other happy stuff. Now, I'm going to ask one simple question. And I keep my computer turned off. Oh, it's a lovely day when I don't ever turn it on. Oh, my goodness. The flowers bloom and I can be me. We have, as this generation has flourished and blossomed, turned ourselves on and plugged ourselves in. That's okay. There's nothing really wrong with that. The problem I have with it, and this is all tech, I don't care what tech it might be. Doesn't matter if it's beneficial. What matters is if anything you find sucks you in. Oh, I got to have this. Or causes you to become, to some extent, addicted to it. Always got to have the TV or the phone on or the computer running or the iPad going or da-da-da-da-da. I will suggest you take a close look at heroin. It kills. Now, I'm going to take this one step further. A majority of the technology that is available that you will run across in 3D is not good for you. Why? It kills the soul. the spirit dies, shrivels on the vine, and here's how it works. It alleviates you of the capacity of interaction with yourself. It stifles, suppresses, and causes the total ruination of your imagination. And believe me, your imagination, which goes to all of the expressions in art, that one book you got, that one song you can have, that painting that you could do, it might be a one-shot wonder. Don't matter. It's your obligation to the Creator to be all you can be, and this takes that away. That's my to technology. And until such time as these things can be rectified, can be changed, can be altered to a point where the addictiveness is blasé, so what? Until that happens, I don't really appreciate or like it. Secondarily, emissions from computers, phones that are even just plain radio phones, cell phones, etc., are damaging to you. You don't believe me? Put a little pile of popcorn in the middle of 3 cell phones and dial the 3 cell phones and watch the popcorn pop. And I'm going to suggest that you don't want your brains to look like the popcorn. You best figure something else out. Any portion of your anatomy that is exposed to this has 2 ways to deal with it. It can form a tumor, which is sort of a protection or fight back against from your immune system, which don't know what to do with it, or it overloads your nervous system and further takes control. So my suggestion is that anybody who does not like the technology, such as myself, in terms of the way it is now, not subject to me, but alluring, smells sweet and sickly and come on, big boy kind of thing, be very careful of it. Try the experiment. And this is Sociology 1. Divorce yourself from the commonplace of what you're used to, totally and completely. And you'll find you. If you want to, you first have to know thyself before you can go any further than that. Those people who have divorced themselves from technology generally end up being a portion of or a great influence on the leadership of going towards being as we are supposed to be. So bear these things in mind. Take this seriously. Yeah, I know it's a bitter pill, but advanced technologies, truly advanced technologies, are non-addictive. They're a simple convenience. Sure, you can get too much used to convenience. Ours is the throwaway generation. The convenience generation started in the 50s, been around for a while, heavily ingrained. Then they found that they could produce a new one more inexpensively than they could fix one that's broke. And
disposable.
Why does somebody want to become an engineer when they can't make no money doing this? I know some people that simply fix flat screens and things like that. They make $250,000, $300,000 a year. So that's a lie. Why? The cabal, the bad guys, those people that have off-world tech available to them in order to initiate certain things, like the NSA spying, political racism, and all these other happy things that have been popping out in the news. You got to be aware that that is a part of the same thing that you find addictive about having, I got a text. It don't matter if you're driving or what, I got a text. Well, sorry, I choose not to be addicted. And that's my little soapbox. Next.
Girls, are you ready for the next question?
We are.
Yep.
Okay, has the Silver Legion, well, we were going to take a break, but we will after this question, okay? Has the Silver Legion ever taken any reptoids or Greys prisoner during a war, and if so, what happened to them? Also, have any reptoids or Greys ever surrendered to the Silver Legion voluntarily and asked for possible amnesty or asked for a chance to change sides and join the Light Warriors, and how would that work out?
Yes, we have taken prisoners. What we usually do is attempt to get what information we can from them. No, we don't use torture. There's absolutely no need for torture. There are much easier ways to get accurate information than torture. And no, I'm not at liberty to disclose those, but they are quite humane. Yes, we have also had people who've surrendered and who have defected to our side.
Only the Rectoids, though, not Greys.
No, not Greys. Not among the Greys. I have yet to see a Grey who made an actual, genuine attempt to change, but there is a very, very, very small group of Reptoids who now live on Harmony. They don't leave Harmony because the opportunity for friendly fire is a little bit too great in a population of Galactics who are used to being at the other end of the gun with a Reptoid. Sometimes they shoot first and ask questions later, and it's considered self-defense. So they stay on Harmony. They do not interact with Terrans in any way, shape, or form. But yes, we do have a few positive Reptoids, and they are pretty decent people. It's very interesting to see once they are free of the very, very repressive Reptoid system that they blossom and often become very creative. Quote-unquote normal Reptoids are usually only creative when it comes to dishing out pain and suffering for others. These Reptoids, we have one who was a black scale, an assassin, who happens to be one of the most creative architects and ship designers that I have ever met. And he excels in making beautiful, beautiful buildings and ships. Absolutely stunningly beautiful, in harmony with their environments, clean ships and wonderful buildings. And he is just so thrilled to have an opportunity to practice his art, because in the Reptoid system, he would have never had that. In fact, he probably would have just been summarily shot if he'd tried. We have another pair who are, and people who've heard of this game will no doubt get a chuckle, a pair of red scales who are crazy about Warhammer. And they have a black scale who loves to carve the miniatures out of wood and stone. So these two will go spend hours and hours and hours playing Warhammer together, while the third one's sitting there happily carving some Warhammer figurines. It's very, very funny. So yeah, we have a few.
Yeah, and I just, one of the things I want to point out, though, is the ones that do defect and have been discovered to be positive, they were born that way.
Yes, they make it, every single one of them makes it very clear they did not have a change of heart. They were born remembering who and what they were. They were born thinking it was a bad thing and thinking they had to get out, and they merely survived until they had a chance to escape. And then when they heard of the Silver Legion, they came to us because they felt they had a better shot with us than they did with anyone else, because most people are going to shoot them on sight. Since we'd already become accustomed to the very small handful of positives that we had, we did not shoot them on sight. We do put them through a very, very rigorous interview process to make sure that we haven't got a false defector, and we have had a few that tried it, and we caught them. So, once again, if there's a Reptoid down here on Terra or in this nearby spiritual environ who's telling you that they're good and they've had a change of heart, don't buy it. It's a self-protection measure. Make sure they go through somebody you trust first before you take them at their word. It's sort of like when you were a kid, don't talk to strangers, find out from a trusted adult before you went and trusted that other adult that came along and started talking to you. Same thing with Reptoids. Talk to somebody you trust to find out if they're legitimate before you go believing what the Reptoid says to you. They're very fond of lying, and they're very fond of presenting themselves falsely so that they can get in through your defenses and then hurt you.
My goodness, that sounds like somebody once told me, trust me.
Oh, yeah. famous last words. You know, talk about things you should never do. Somebody's telling you, trust me. Yeah, don't do it.
Okay, is the new 3D Earth ready and waiting for whoever will be choosing to go there, such as housing, food, etc.? Or will we get replicators to build everything ourselves? And do you use replicators now for your food and clothing?
We don't use it here on Earth for our food and clothing. Nope, I don't get. I still have to go to the grocery store and or the farm, and still have to cook my own food and buy clothes and or knit them. So, yeah, we don't get that either. But I don't know if you'll be building your own or if it'll be pre-made or whatever. I imagine that there would be some customization involved, which means that your input would be necessary. They're not going to drop you off with like a stone axe and a how-to manual on how to make stuff out of wild materials. It's not like that. Yes, that planet, and no, it is not an Earth. It is not Earth. But yes, that planet is already prepared for life. The rest of those questions, I think you might want to ask Tolek. Those are good Tolek questions.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Next, I can't recall any questions about if you guys thought the Earth was hollow or not. I do understand other races
we have.
Yes, it is.
We have had lots of questions about hollow and inner Earth. Yes,
right.
The Earth is hollow, but not like a empty balloon. There's still a core. There's still quite a bit of material in there. There are hollow layers. There are also a vast network of subterranean caverns. Most of, we have the people of Telos and the Agarsons who have been evacuated at Gaia's request because they were found to be hindering things for Terrans on the surface. And since they are not of the same vibrational frequency as Earth, she requested that they leave in order so that her chosen children, that is, you guys, would have a chance to continue on unhindered. When transition is over and everything, the dust is settled, they'll be given the option to come back if Gaia welcomes them back. She might not.
And if they agree to not, behave in negative and suppressive ways.
Yeah, in general, those societies were very positive or neutral, but apparently they had enough factions among them that weren't, that Gaia wanted them out for the duration. They were not put to death, they were not destroyed, they were just evacuated at the request of Gaia.
Okay. Next question for Tanaath or anyone. My husband wants to know if there are really Pashant, P-A-S-H-A-N-T, warriors out there.
Can you spell that one out for me? Type it out.
P-A-S-H-A, okay. Let me put it in the Skype window.
Yeah. I haven't heard that phrase, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't. Why?
Well, my husband wants to know if there are patient warriors out there, or patient.
Is that supposed to be patient, or is that supposed to be patient? And they just didn't spell it correctly.
The way they spelled it was P-A-S-H-A-N-T, or.
I would need more information about what that is before I can answer that question.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I hadn't heard the term. That's why I had to. That's why I spelled it, because I didn't know how to pronounce it. Okay, all right. If the moon is a spaceship, then who is manning it right now?
It seems to be a bit of a hot potato. It was the Reptoids and the Greys. But we've been making efforts into eradicating that presence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right now. I would say it's a real hot potato, and that for the most part, I would say the majority of it is controlled by the positives. But there may still be a base of negatives, here or there that have to be cleaned out, or some bad text that still has to be removed.
Bases and outposts, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are some reptilians still around on this planet? What is the purpose of keeping them here?
Oh, we're not keeping them here.
Yeah, we're not keeping them
who
here.
Who thinks that we're in charge here? If we were in charge here, this place would be a lot nicer.
Yeah. If we were in charge, the Cabal and the Reptoids and the Greys would not still be here. People would not still be suffering or anything like that.
Yeah, why don't you ask the Cabal why they still keep Reptoids here?
Yeah.
So long as we don't get pink curtains, we're good.
Okay. Now, don't laugh at me, guys. I'm just the messenger. Okay.
I know.
All right. This person says, I am not making fun with the following questions. Their responses will be proof or affirmation. Please don't get me wrong. Okay, for Tanaath, are you of the light? Are you of the light? Are you of the light?
I am.
Okay, for Sunfire, are you of the light? Are you of the light? Are you of the light?
Yes.
Okay, for Drake, are you of the light? Are you of the light? Are you of the light?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that was the question. Questions, whatever. Okay, now, next question. I thought of something funny. My two half-sisters have breast implants. What's going to happen to their implants in transition? Are they going to melt down like some plastics? Aren't they made of plastic?
They're probably just going to poof. Anything artificial will poof. In the case of something like your artificial hip, or in my case, my artificial tooth, that will poof and be replaced with the natural, the way it was meant to be. In the case of those of us who have had surgeries to remove certain organs or who are missing organs or limbs or other body parts, those will poof back in. All these infirmities, if you were born with a disability... Yes,
yeah,
all that titanium, you no longer will be a $6 million woman.
Hey, cool. All right. I have a question.
Those who have been born with disabilities will have those disabilities poof as well, whether they are mental or physical or otherwise. Okay. And you will be 100% whole human beings, functional.
Okay. Cool.
With all attachments.
All right, next question. Really cool. Next question. I'm curious about, I have a question for Tanaath or Sunfire. I'm curious about gay people and how the upcoming change will affect them, me as I am gay too.
Well, likely people will find that there's not a lot of reason to be prejudiced anymore.
Yeah, what we're hoping and, intend is to bring equality to everyone, whether they're gay, straight, bi, anywhere in between. In the positives and, other aspects of the Federation, sexuality, regardless of, what sexuality that is like a total non-issue, a non-thing. People are not judged by their sexuality. They're only defined by who they define themselves as, by their character.
By their actions and their character and how they comport themselves in society. Doesn't matter a whit if they're gay or straight. And in fact, most people don't even have a concept of sexual orientation up there, with the exception of certain cultures which tend to be strictly strictly heterosexual or strictly homosexual. And in the, situation of things, there are sometimes also cultures who have multiple genders, and those interesting situations and relations can arise. Most of us do not ask the question, are you straight or gay? Instead, it's, are you free Saturday night?
Yeah. Yeah, because up there, it's recognized that sexuality is something that your sexuality is something you're born with. It's genetic.
And many are actually bisexual. I would say actually pansexuality or bisexuality is the norm rather than the exception. And many cultures also have open relationships in such that sexual relationships are not restricted simply between married spouses, but are something that is shared between very close friends and people who are friends of the heart. And you don't see a lot of jealousy, you don't see a lot of possessiveness. The concept of cheating is virtually non-existent. This is not the universal case. There are some cultures who are strictly monogamous, and in those cases, what goes on is when they get propositioned, they just say, no thanks, we have a solo bond. And that's the end of it. Nobody tries to seduce them or break the family unit or anything like that. It's all very polite. It's all very like, oh, well, that's nice. Enjoy yourself, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
there's no judgment.
Right, exactly. I mean, speaking of personal experience, my dimensional fiance and I, we're in an exclusive relationship, and that, you know, it does come up, and we're just like, you know, no thank you, or we're exclusive, or, you know, something very polite, and people are like, okay, well, you know, if you
change your mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you know, people are very, I want to say they're very accepting, and they're very open, and they're very non-judgmental. A lot, I would say a good 98% of what we see in society in all levels here on Terra that we don't like is stuff that was introduced or a result of the reptoid occupation. It's not it's not things that exist out among the majority of the positive, neutral, negative societies and planets out there in the universe.
Okay. Next question.
Especially ones that aren't, you know, involved in reptoid occupation. Next.
Okay. Tanaath, disregard if you can't talk about specifics, but when everything is said and done, I am taking strong consideration of becoming a pilot for the Silver Legion. What classes of ships might you have? I'm kind of familiar with the Dreadnought class. I'm just wondering what else is available and what would be the best kind of ship or class of ship for an inexperienced Terran to start off with.
Well, we have a variety of ships, and yes, I can discuss classes. I can't discuss fleet strength or numbers. If you're interested in piloting, you are most likely to be involved in piloting a scout, which is a unarmed or low-armed exploratory vessel, a system defense fighter, which is a heavily armed, slightly like a fighter plane, a breaker hammercraft, which is, again, a very, very heavily armed light attack craft that can take on a dreadnought toe-to-toe and go atmospheric as well. Or you might be involved on a larger crew on a frigate or a destroyer. And those are the small non-capital ships. And eventually, if you're the kind of person who makes a good captain, you might find yourself on a larger vessel, like one of the Flying Dragons or the Tathars, which are our capital class vehicles and ships. And we also have the ones we call the M-class vessels, which are planet-sized vessels which sort of act like permanent military installations that can also be moved around and contain the capacity to transport entire portions of the fleet in one go. Now, while those have nominal captains, it's probably going to be restricted to people who have a great deal of experience, but you'll have a lot of time in which to get that experience. So anything that kind of suits your fancy in that spectrum, from personal small craft and attack craft to larger ships, those will be optional and options that Terrans will have an opportunity to pursue. We do anticipate that there will be a large number of Terrans who will be interested in space, so we will have simulator time that in simulators that pretend to be various craft and crewed ships. available for people to learn, to find out whether they like it and whether it's something they really want. And there will be ample opportunity for people to join and take part of the space effort. We're as eager to have you guys on board as you guys are to be on board, because we know that there's a lot of Terrans who've been just itching to get into space. Heck, I'm one of them.
Yup.
I was a little sad when I found out I couldn't be an astronaut growing up.
I know it's one thing I'm looking forward to is getting back to flying the scout crafts, and my favorite, the system defense fighters. I mean, there's nothing that can compare to buzzing the atmosphere of a planet or taking a slingshot ride around a black hole.
Additionally, there are non-martial options available to those who are interested in the Galactic Patrol and the exploratory branches of the Galactic Federation of Planets and the Andromeda Council. And those guys have small vessels and small crew vessels that do a lot of exploring, and scouts as well.
Yeah.
Lots of options for anyone who wants to go into space.
Gotcha. Okay, ready for the next question?
Yep.
At some point, we will be ready to join the Federation of Planets. What resources will we have to negotiate with, and what Federation laws will affect us, and what other laws may also apply?
Resources aren't used for negotiation. Resources, the only resources we would consider are objects of trade, such as artwork, the product of creative endeavors, music, things like that, information and knowledge. We don't need stuff, but things that are beautiful are timeless and valued everywhere. People who produce wine may find that they have a pretty going product that a lot of people are interested in, because wine does not replicate very well due to the fact that it is produced by fermentation, and fermentation involves living organisms, which replicators can't replicate.
Yeah, and it's as far as the laws, the majority of there's really not a lot of laws within the Federation.
There are no personal laws.
Right.
We don't legislate what you do as an individual.
The majority of the laws that are contained within the Federation would be the laws of creation, the laws of nature, and universal laws. Universal laws are those like everybody has the right to free will. Everybody has the right to self-defense. Everybody, has the right to fully informed consent.
If you're violating those on a societal level, then there will be repercussions if you are a Federation member.
Right.
And it is because of a violation of those on a societal or planetary level that we're involved now trying to free you. I honestly hope, and I honestly don't think that Terrans would revert to such tyranny in the absence of the reptoid control systems.
Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm a little distracted. I've got so many different. I've got Skype windows open all over the place and questions coming in, faster than
understandable.
I ask one and I get another page of questions. So anyway, and for some reason I've got just messages coming in from multiple Skype windows tonight. Okay. All right. Next question. Are there any nutritious candies, cookies, pizza, and cakes in 4D?
Oh, yeah. Anything that comes from a replicator will be automatically tuned to the people it's going to be served to, so it will be the most nutritious it can be to those people. Anything that is grown
GMO.
is often, yes, not GMO. Anything that is grown is often really nutritious and contains the additional perk of containing a great deal of life energy as the gift of the plant.
I was going to say, and the love energy that comes from whoever's tending the crop.
Yeah, and whoever raised the crops and cooked it. Anything cooked is going to have that additional punch of love energy from whoever made it. But replicator food is very, very nutritious and very delicious. So yes, you can have pizza and cake and candy and whatnot that won't kill you in the 4D coming from a replicator.
Okay. All right, let's see. For Tanaath, is it important to meditate in order to establish a connection to Source? Is meditation required, in other words?
Most people have a very specific idea of what meditation.
Yeah,
well, you're probably thinking it's a certain thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. A lot of people have a very specific notion of what constitutes meditation. But you know what? Anything that puts your mind into that meditative state, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's empty mind meditation, whether it's knitting, whether it's moving your body in yoga, or whether it's sitting outside contemplating life, whatever puts you into the meditative frame of mind, whatever works for you is meditation. Prayer is a form of meditation. You don't have to sit there and repeat a mantra, but if that works for you, you can do it. You don't have to sit there and try to empty your mind of all thought, but if that works for you, you can do it. And meditation helps. If you can't reach the frame of mind that allows you to leave your body, then you're probably not going to be able to astral travel to meet us, at least not until the fourth dimension. You might have to wait until after the transition. But trust me in that you can meditate. It's just that you're probably thinking of it as being this very specific thing that looks like something crossing yourself into a lotus position and going which isn't necessarily the case. There's many ways to meditate. Look it up. The internet has a lot of solutions.
Okay. Tanaath, you mentioned before that it is rare for there to be monogamous relationships in the fourth dimension and above. How do relationships work then? Do people just come and go and have many lovers? Since time is not linear, can you meet a lover and then get back home to your wife before you left? Are all ETs free-loving hippies?
No, not all the ETs are free-loving hippies. There are a lot of people who are monogamous. It's just that this is not the general norm. The general norm is actually for fairly open relationships. Most people who are having open relationships are not doing so with everybody who walks by. They're doing so with their close friends and the people they care about a lot and interact with a lot. And it's usually, and a lot of the times it's in a group situation and it's a social activity. It's one way of showing each other's love for one another and appreciation for one another, leaving each other with good feelings. And since in most cases there's no such thing as an accidental pregnancy, it's not a matter of territoriality over whose children are whose. And some family units are actually composed of multiple adults, more than two, who are all having children with one another. And then the family is sort of brought up as this one big conglomerate. And it's actually a lot of fun that way. Not everybody does it that way. A lot of families are just pair units. Can you read the whole question? There was more than one question in there, and I want to make sure I got them all.
Okay, read it back. Okay. You have mentioned before that it is rare that for there to be monogamous relationships in the fourth dimension and above. How do relationships work? Do people just come and go and have many lovers? Since time is not linear, can you meet a lover, then get back home to your wife before you left? And are all ETs free-loving hippies?
Okay, on the time thing, I really don't know. I generally don't get involved with the time stuff because it makes my head spin. Not all of us are free-loving hippies. There are those who maintain monogamous relationships. Sunfire and her mate are an example of that. And as I mentioned before, most of the time, these kinds of sexual activity occur in small, loving groups. There are people who have a lot of casual sex, again, without the risk of STDs and without the risk of pregnancy, and in an environment where love is pretty easy to give and heartfelt. It's not as harmful and hurtful as it can be on this planet, so it's really not a problem. But certainly not everybody is into the whole casual thing, though there certainly are some people who are. Again, I would say the casuals are kind of like the monogamous ones. They're not the bulk of the population. The bulk of the population are in, I guess you could say, dedicated polygamous relationships with their close friends.
And I was going to say, you know, like an example, the Tao study on a cultural level, racial level, majority of them do get into very committed relationships. I wouldn't say that it's, you know, something that spreads across the entire Tao study race, but the majority of them do tend to get into either monogamous relationships with one person, or they'll be very heavily committed to a very small group, like 3 or 4, and that'll be it. So I mean, there's a good example of, you know, some that, you know, of a race of people that, you know, carry a majority of monogamous relationships. But yeah, like Tanaath said, it's like, you know, and she answered it beautifully.
Yeah, and you know, nobody's going to pressure you into something you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Ready? We're going to try and get through some of these questions, gang. We're on page 11 now of 34. Okay. All right. This is for the audience. Would y'all please send some energy out through prayer, meditation, positive thought, however you do your thing, in order to unblock the positives from being able to land, and for the positive ETs to be able to land wherever and whenever they need to in order to help us to help ourselves. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All rock.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of that whole thing, I wanted to say, it goes into a lot of the laws of nature. Like, you know, the one where focus goes, energy follows, and what you focus on the most will manifest itself.
Right. That was from Tiffany F. By the way.
Tiffany F.
All right.
So here's a shout out to you, hon.
That's a very generous gift.
Yeah.
Okay. Question: If a race's DNA gets damaged through radiation, such as the grave, can one just decide not to incarnate again into that species? In a related question, have you been paying attention to the massive amounts of radiation that are going into the Pacific still from Fukushima? It was already at bad and jumped up 9,000 times the other day.
The majority of stories out there, news out there about Fukushima is highly inaccurate. It's, you know, we've dealt with the Fukushima thing multiple times. We've said multiple times it's not anywhere near what is being put out media-wise. They are, you know, the cabal are using it as a, you know, another fear porn tactic, and to, you know, try and scare people. There's very minimal, if any, radiation getting into the oceans, and what is getting into the oceans is being cleaned up as it hits the water by the aquatics and the other ETs involved in, you know, cleaning up radiation and nuclear stuff around the planet. It's not a problem. Fukushima is not a threat.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I saw somebody trying to blame the higher levels of radiation at 30,000 feet in an airplane on Fukushima. I'm sorry. The atmosphere of this planet, part of what it does is block out the cosmic background radiation and the radiation from the sun that we're constantly being bombarded with. The radiation levels are higher when you go above the cloud cap. We've known this for decades. This is why pilots often have girls, because the male sperm, which are not as vigorous as female sperm, die. It's not Fukushima, you know. The problem will be taken care of. there's a lot of panic mongering going on.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep talking over you. The first part of the question was, if a race's DNA gets damaged through radiation, such as the Greys, can one decide not to incarnate again into that species?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the terms of the Greys, I don't think...
they don't even have souls. They're not...
They're automatons.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's no,
okay.
There's no chance of anybody incarnating as a Grey because they don't even have souls or spirit essences to begin with. They're not alive in the, they don't have consciousness. They're parasitic automatons, and that's about all they are.
Okay. This is a rather lengthy question, but I'm going to blast it out there anyway. Okay. Because I don't know how to. I don't know how to.
So we can get
I don't know how to short. Well, I don't know how to shorten the question without getting the question, mangled. Okay. In Biblioteca
Pleiades,
or whatever website that you recommended about Kyla transmitting the information about what took place on the Procyon system, in the Procyon system being the same thing that is now unfolding on Earth, we're sort of left in a cliffhanger. He simply says that they had to escape to the vast corridors of time, coming back for occasional strikes against the occupiers of their planet. But he does not specifically address how they were able to free themselves. Y'all said this question was answered when someone else asked this question again, but I cannot find it. When I asked
it, what we said is that it is largely operational information still, or operational details, which means that the precise nature of what the Procyons did is not something that we can disseminate to the Cabal because we're doing it to them right now.
Okay. And it continues, it says, when I asked it, the answer that you gave to my original question was that Kyla himself would be happy to talk at length about how this was done. So could y'all either transmit the answer from him on the next show or get him on the show possibly? I'm also highly interested in the specifics of what kind of strikes were deployed, as we may be able to make use of that information here somehow. Thanks so much. You all are
We
awesome.
are making use of that information here right now.
And,
we're not, for operational security reasons, we are not disseminating the precise nature of those techniques because they are in use here. And we would rather not have them countered.
And as far as Kyla coming on the show and being a guest, as soon as it's possible, I'm sure he would love to do that. But I doubt even at that point that he'll be releasing any tactical data. He'll probably talk about the pranks that he's played and the funny stories and the trouble that his mate Morai gets into on a daily basis. But yeah, I mean, as far as operational and tactical data, that's not going to be released until far after this war is won completely, and it will probably still be very highly contained because there's still 50 plus planets that we got to liberate. The last thing we want is them learning our techniques and methods.
Okay.
You don't give your playbook to the enemy.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. On the last show, y'all said that there were only a couple hundred reptilians left on the planet. Would you please tell us about how many Greys are still here, and if they are still engaged in mind control agendas on Earth? I know that the Cabal is, but I'm specifically interested in the Greys on this issue.
I don't have that information, unfortunately.
I would say yes, there still are Greys on this planet, and yes, they are still involved in the mind control and everything else. They're not going to stop until they're completely wiped out.
I don't have information on how many there are or anything like that.
They do not have the capacity to stop or change, and so they just won't. Okay.
Question for Tanaath and Sunfire. Curious, when the planet enters 4D, what will happen to the earthbound spirits and ghosts?
they'll be given the opportunity to go to the 40 as well, and from that point, they will be able to choose what they want to do with themselves.
Okay. Will the current type of cell phones that we're using go away altogether? And if so, what type of cell phones will be a replacement?
You probably won't need to use cell phones. We have different communicator devices, and most people will be able to use telepathy, so be able to reliably speak directly to a person, no matter where they are.
Right, yeah, and
we won't have to have all the gadgets
you know,
in our pocket.
Right.
The gadgets will reduce, not proliferate. Everybody will get their replicator. Everybody will get their over Unity device, and they'll be able to get what gadgets they need from the replicator at that point. And you're probably not going to see a whole lot of brand name fixation anymore.
Right, that'll be a relief because I've been complaining since like the 60s before I, or the 70s when I was, putting together a hope chest before I got married, and I was like, why on earth do they have to have a separate, thing for everything? Like why do we have to have a hot dog cooker and a popcorn popper and a waffle maker and we need a kitchen the size of the Superdome,
Right. And then another thing is that, all these devices that operate on radio waves and Wi-Fi and all that are detrimental to the mental health and physical health of, the population. And so, of course, the devices are going to transition to something that is, completely the opposite, not, in any way detrimental to, the health of the population in any way.
We use them now because it's the best way to communicate reliably to other human beings on this planet, not because they're good for us, not because it's the best solution, period.
Okay. Here's a cool question. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 2.5 minutes before we transition into overtime. If you want to continue listening live, please dial into the board now at 646-716-4984. Again, 646-716-4984, and you've got little time to do it. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until we completely finish the show. It has archives, and Blog Talk re-uploads it before you can listen to the ending, which you would have to do, listen to, anything after the first 3 hours. Okay. This is a neat question. I saw my first UFO when I was just 9 years old in December of 1973 while I was looking for the comet Kahutek. It looked sort of like a spinning top, but it had the most amazing kaleidoscope of colors that came from it. What I wanted to know is who it might have been and where might they have come from.
Without having seen it, it'd be hard for me to identify. I usually identify based on the feel of the occupants. So the description doesn't help me very much.
Okay.
Especially since the spinning top with lots of colors is a common theme in UFOs.
Yeah.
Okay. And
just like
I don't
the
know
silver
if it would
disc
make any difference. Right. I don't know if it would make any difference that it was back in the early 70s. Okay, we got 90
early
seconds.
70s?
It was back in 1973.
The only thing I'm getting, I got the word Pleiadian, but that doesn't help. I mean, it's a whole...
Yeah, it's like which ones? The Arans, the Alcyons?
I'm getting that it's the Alcyons, according to what I'm being told, that it was an Alcyon.
Yeah.
Or either Alcyons or Moros.
Sounds like an Alcyon ship.
Okay. All right, next question. We are starting page 12, by the way, gang. Okay.
Progress.
Yay.
Yeah. For Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire, on the demon-looking people, any personal experiences or stories that you have? Do demonesque people ever marry or have relations with what we would consider a person on this planet? And lastly, do the females look different than the males?
Some have sexual dimorphism, yes. Some even have sexual dimorphism that human beings would recognize as looking female. One group of demon-looking people that I'm very familiar with are the Darius Dahan. The Darius Dahan are strictly vegetarians. They do not eat meat at all. They look like a very classic representation of Satan in that they have goat-like heads, horns, hooves, digitigrade legs, and fuzzy bottom parts, and tails with a little fork at the end. They often come in red and orange hues or brown hues, and the males usually sports facial hair. They're one of the gentlest groups I've ever run across. We ran into them when some other group tried to engineer a civil war among the Darius Dahan, and they requested intervention, and the Silver Legion came to their aid. I imagine that it is conceivable that there are people who have had relations with demonic entities, some consensual, some decidedly non-consensual, because some of these entities have entered into contracts and some of them are nasty and have done things to human beings for which there will need to be reparation and apology and healing made.
Okay.
Offspring from these, I don't know. It's possible.
Okay. Comments from either Drake or Sunfire on that?
I'm gonna stick with what Tanaath said. I don't really know a lot about demons. I know my fiance's got a couple of them that are friends of his, but beyond that, I don't really know a lot.
All right. According to Alex Collier, the first ET group that we meet will not be friendly. What's your take on this?
Well, it was true. The
Yeah.
first ET group we met was not friendly. That would have been the Greys and the Reptoids.
Okay. So we've already met and okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we've already met them.
And any of the others that he'd be referring to were summarily cleared off the planet, so they won't be a problem.
Yeah, we no longer need to worry about an invasion from the Galactic Federation of Light Bulbs.
Or Galactic Federation of Liars.
Yep. And yes, they did literally promise invasion, which they couldn't deliver because we destroyed their invasion fleets.
Okay. Next, what are your thoughts about Earth changes? Will it happen?
It's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not will it happen. It's pay attention to the weather. It is happening right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't necessarily things that happen overnight in a cataclysmic fashion.
Right. Do you think that the regressive ETs are going to play out the Book of Revelations?
They sure as heck are trying, and we sure as heck are not going to let them. What I want from you guys is to refuse to manifest that with your thoughts and fears and beliefs. Because in no way does any of the Revelation scenario benefit anyone on humankind on this planet. A small minority might be able to get to feel good about themselves and say, I told them so, but given what they're going to have to go through in order to do so, it does nobody any good. Don't manifest revelations. It does not need to happen.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything big, what's going to happen in the next 5 months, say?
Stuff and things. That's pretty vague. It's hard to pin down exact events, especially since I don't want to give timelines because this is a war. These are ongoing activities. They're not set in stone. I would expect that more effort will be made to freeing people from financial tyranny. Maybe we'll even see some actual breakthroughs that the public can enjoy in that regard. Hopefully the Andromedans will be able to come down and start educating people on the dimensional transfer so that nobody will be left panicking, and we can start with the cleanup but I won't put a timeline on that either. I would hope that the Andromedan timeline of January for Ascension is a real thing that can actually happen, because I think that would be greatly beneficial to humanity. However, at the same time, I'm saying we got a heck of a lot to do between now and then. I don't know how we're going to do it all, but trust that it will all get done, and many of you are likely to be involved as your callings apply.
Okay, and here's another timeline question. This might be a new person. When exactly will 5D come to pass?
5D? We're still on 4. Heck, we're still on 3 right now. Yeah, let's not skip here, okay? You know, you don't get to skip grades. It's not a race to oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
You need a new record player.
5D. Yeah,
okay.
I don't even want to know. By that time, I am hoping to be celebrating my retirement in a pacified, peaceful galaxy where everybody's living happily. This one.
Okay, Drake and/or group, what do you think of Mythi, M-Y-T-H-I, and Captain Bill?
Mythi? That's one of the channeled one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
M-Y-T-H-I. Mythi?
Mythi. I don't really like the robot voice, but I can understand a person's desire to protect their identity in this work. People have been killed, ridiculed, lost their jobs, etc. At the same time, what I've heard from Tolek is that this entity is not legit.
Okay.
I heard that Captain Bill's boat sunk. I'm serious. I'm not kidding you a bit. That was the last report I heard.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right.
Ooh, my.
Do you believe only the religions would choose, the religious, I would think that's religious, only the religious would choose to stay in 3D?
No. I believe that people will have an option to choose in full knowledge of what it is that they're choosing, and that much of this religiosity, which has been embedded into us, will be, we will be freed from it.
Mm-hmm. So it won't necessarily be because of religion.
No, and the religious aren't going to get a chance to go perpetrate a bunch of lies elsewhere either, right? They're not going to go get a chance to go mess it up elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah. There will be some major deprogramming before anybody's let off this planet.
Okay. Question, there won't be a currency in the new 4D Earth, right?
Well, likely the economic system will take a number of years, if not a decade or more, to transition to a moneyless system. So I cannot say that there will be no money in 4D, considering that 4D is expected to come within a year or two, if not this year or next year. And the money system is expected to be phased out over a period of 10 to 20 years.
Gotcha. Okay. If we incarnate all the time, doesn't that mean that it's difficult to know where our true essence is from in the universe? For example, if I was Chinese in my past life, but now I'm Native American, that doesn't mean that I'm from planet Dakota, right? It's only the genetic material, but not our true spirit essence. Is that right?
Yeah, you'll have to discover your own true spirit essence and figure out where you're from. And who you are now on this planet with the genetics you are now, that is your life now. It is not your life always, or what you came from before. You may have chosen this because you wanted to experience having Dakotan genetics.
Gotcha.
In as much as anybody currently on this planet had choice at all in terms of incarnation.
Uh-huh. Okay. When we enter 4D, will we know spiritually about the deceptions that have been going on for 5,000 years, or will we have to be educated?
It'll be a lot easier to detect.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's been going on for more than 5,000 years. It's been going on for closer to 26,000 years.
Gotcha. Okay. Can we join the Silver Legion combat training program now? And if so, how do I do that?
Yes, if you are willing to astral project or learn how.
Okay.
We've covered astral projection before. I'm not the best teacher of this.
Okay, do they just go to the Silver Legion website and then email you saying they want to join and they want to be part of the combat program?
I'm not the arbiter of your joining or not joining. Please, I can't tell you if you email me if you made it there. I can't tell you if you can join. All I can do is repeat what I repeat on the website and here, which is the best way to join, is go in person, out of your body, astral travel, your dream state travel, lucid dream, or bilocation or spirit projection. Go in person, speak to the recruitment team, talk to them there. I'm not able to personally arbit people's individual experiences. I am way, way too busy doing my own work and living my own life in order to do things like that. So please don't ask me.
And honestly, if you don't make it before the transition and before the Silver Legion is able to set up their little remote recruiting offices here on Terra, there will be, as soon as possible, not only for the Silver Legion, but for the Federation as well, little remote recruiting offices where people who want to join the Federation, want to join the Liberation Forces, want to join the Silver Legion, the Andromeda Council, etc., to where you will just have to go up to one of the quote-unquote recruiting offices and say, "Hi, my name is Joe, and I want to join. How do I do this?" And then there'll be people there that will explain to you and fully inform you of what the requirements are, what needs to be done, you know, what the training is, what you can expect, etc. And at that point, you guys will get to join.
Okay. A question for Sunfire. I'm curious as to what your Unipeg looks like. Could you post a drawing of him or her, or a good description of this unique animal? I'm always been interested in animals of higher dimensions. Thank you, and I enjoy listening to you and Tanaath.
Well, thank you for listening. As far as Unipegs, generally speaking, in using a horse term, they range from about 16 to 18 hands on average. They have wings that are bird-like, and their horns are about 3 feet in length, and at the tip are razor sharp, or even sharper than a razor, and you can imagine that. And generally speaking, for the base form of a Unipeg, if you take a breed like the Frisian or a what is considered a light draft, or some of the more sturdy built light breeds, then you'll get something very close to what the basis for the Unipeg looks like, and then you just add the wings and a horn, and you've basically got it. And they come in all different colors, including colors that are not, you know, inherently natural to horses here on the planet. And
like purple.
Mine, yeah. Frisian with wings and a horn, basically.
The boy who adopted me is silvery or steely gray, metallic steely gray with black mane and tail and hooves.
And Zazar is beautiful. My Unipeg in her Unipeg form, her coat is like the color of, like an orangey red, the color of fire, and then her mane and tail are literally like, if you take like the slightly lighter, more yellow color of fire, and her wings are a mix of the red and yellow that the rest of her coat is, and her hooves are like very, very dark red, and she literally looks like fire when she, and in her full form. And her horn is almost like a golden color.
Cool. Okay, next question. You started to read my question, and halfway through you said you might have answered it last week. However, I've listened to the archives, so I'm going to ask my question again. If we do not have money to purchase things in the next dimension, how will we be able to acquire large ticket items such as homes, transportation vehicles, and farm tractors?
You'll be able to have a replicator which is capable of making pretty much anything you need to, including housing parts, vehicle parts, etc., and other functional items. Households will have a household replicator and also a larger scale replicator which is capable of making transportation devices.
Okay.
Plus a power generating system capable of handling household needs. Money won't be required. Property ownership, the notion that I own this hunk of land and I'm going to shoot you if you put your feet on it, and I'm going to extort anyone for money who wants to put something on here, that's going to be abolished. Nonetheless, we're not going to be tossing anyone out of their homes or anything like that. If you've been living in it, it will be considered yours.
Yeah.
Okay. Very specific question. Even if now those biospheres are here cloaked, that doesn't change the essence of the problem. Galactic Federation of Planets doesn't know an exact date when the transition happens, and so even if the biospheres are here cloaked, they don't know when to pick up people because they won't know when the transition happens. Please be kind enough and listen carefully to what I'm asking and reply with full intention to help me understand. Otherwise, there's no point in asking the question.
Okay. Are you going to ask the question?
Well, the question is basically about the biospheres being cloaked. How is it going to be that, because you don't know when the transition happens.
The Federation does not put a date on it. The Andromeda Council, who runs the biospheres, does put a date on it, and I'm assuming that they have a plan. You should probably talk to Tolek about that.
Right, and I did want to say the Federation does know about when the transition is going to happen. I am simply refraining from conveying that date because I will not put time frames on anything because this is a cosmic event and it could happen anywhere within a certain time frame. And I've seen so many people, even with Drake, the minute he utters 2 days or something like that, and it doesn't happen.
Somebody sticks a foot in it and causes a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me
not going to advertise.
So yeah, I'm not going to. Right.
Okay,
yeah, I'm
girls,
not going to give. I'm not going to give the Kabbalah another inch of rope to hang themselves. They're already being fine on their own.
Right. Let me read the question the way she wants it to be read. Okay. The question is, how will they manage to organize biospheres in order to move people that want to stay at 3D density if they don't know the exact date when the transition will happen? It's like, okay, we're ready to land and pick them up. Oops, we're too late, or it's not our fault because we didn't know the exact date.
They won't be too late. Yeah.
They will be able to tell when to come. Dates are funny when you don't have time, but events can still be detected.
Yeah.
You can still find them before the event. And again, this is an Andromeda Council question because this is the Andromeda Council that is doing it. It is their biospheres and it's their date. They are the ones who do have set a date and stand by it quite firmly.
And the Federation, as far as they're involved, they do have their act together. Like I said, I'm just not giving out time frames for nothing.
Yeah, well, I can't blame any of you for that.
Not dates, time frames, general ranges, those are okay.
Yeah, I'm just not giving out dates for nothing.
Okay, all right. Okay, another rather entailed question. Please, could you ask Tanaath and Sunfire to clarify the archonic soul traps when involved in a near-death experience? If they are designed to allow someone to perceive their experience through a belief system or expectation after death, for example, positive, negative, some near-death experiences have described hell-type experiences for some suicide attempts, or a religious iconic experience, etc., and then encourage the person to return to a 3D existence.
Yep.
How does this explain events and after effects of near-death experiences?
Quite simply, what they do is they pick an experience appropriate to that individual. And sometimes, just to add confusion into the mix, they'll do something like show an atheist hell, or, somebody another religion's version of the afterlife, just to send them back with a message. I saw hell, guys. I'm an atheist. I saw hell in a near-death experience. It's all real. No. If you look at the records of near-death experiences, the one theme that becomes common in all of them is not any particular religious viewpoint, but the fact that it's pretty much all of them. And if it was a true situation of one true faith and everybody else is wrong, then that wouldn't be the case. No, instead, these are manufactured experiences, and they are manufactured in order to create division and contribute to division and keep people caught in this reincarnation trap any way they can.
Okay, let me finish then reading what the lady said, because this concurs with what you're saying. She said, or he, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, an example being Danian Brinkley, who was a self-admitted, selfish, non-caring, mercenary type of personality without any particular faith, who came back and was apparently nothing but positive and has involved himself in nothing but charity and healing, etc. He also came back with some future predictions. Is this an unwanted side effect of accessing other dimensional knowledge and the archons not being able to channel that experience into their chosen program? Or was it worth the unwanted side effect to bring back apocalyptic predictions, even though he suggested a change in humanity in order to avoid them? Danian did not seem to have any religious expectation of death and could probably not have been described as being of the light prior to his near-death experiences.
Okay, let's hear the question again, because that got lost in all the statements.
Okay, well, basically, it says, are the archonic soul traps, are they designed to allow someone to perceive
we
their
answered
experience?
That one. The one in the middle, that was sandwiched between all the questions. Can you read that before the last statement?
Okay. Some near-death experiences, some people come back and they describe it as hell. And an example, and others. Okay,
go to the next one. When he starts talking about this Damien guy.
Danian Brinkley, apparently he came back with nothing but a positive attitude and involved himself in charity and healing. But he also came back with future predictions. Those predictions, it says, is this
No, go to the question. Is it an unwanted side effect?
I'm trying to find the question.
Nope.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, when you're sent back with a near-death experience with that urgent information, it's because they want to embed it into our collective consciousness.
Right.
And
that's what I'm thinking. That's basically what the question is. Is it a side effect? Is it
They might embed aspects of the truth because it's getting to the point where you can't hide it anymore, but they're still going to try to spin it their way, hence all the Armageddon crud.
Okay. Also, the person made the statement, glad to hear that most of these traps have been eliminated.
Well, they had to be. We couldn't just run around letting them happen. Keep that.
Traps. Okay. Now, next question. At the end of last Sunday's program, somebody asked to the effect, how are the events of the event and the important associated information going to be communicated to all of the diverse cultures of the planet, particularly in the extremely remote and out of the way places? Your answer didn't seem to make sense, so I ask again, as many people would surely like to know, how is the word going to get out, like to the people all around the globe in very remote, cultures?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I just know that there is a way to get it to everyone. And when you have fleets of ships that can go across the world in 5 minutes, it's not that hard to get to remote areas.
And, this whole event, as it's been propagated by Cobra, who works...
Is a completely different matter.
Yeah, it's completely false. It's not how it's going to happen. So,
I don't even know what this event is.
I don't know why people keep asking about this event when it's not going to happen. And
he doesn't even say what it is. It's just the event. Well, that could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Tell me more. Give me more details. Oh, it won't happen until the event is happened. No. The event, that terminology...
I think Cobra is claiming the event is supposed to be the massive worldwide disclosure that's not going to happen all in one night. He talks about how it's going to happen all overnight, and it's like, no.
Disclosure is ongoing, guys. Disclosure has been going on actively. It's just not on CNN. I think what people mean when they say they want disclosure is they want it out in the mainstream, in the public, with everybody saying, yeah, aliens are real. That's not going to happen as long as the cabal has any modicum of power over the mainstream media. And they,
but, I mean, there has been disclosure in mainstream media. It's been on CNN. It's been on Fox. It's been on NBC. The British military defense, or the British Ministry of Defense, has released all their files on UFOs. The FBI has released their files on UFOs. We've already had disclosure. It's already been out in the mainstream.
Yeah, what we still have to deal with is all the social program that's portraying people who believe in something that's real as being wingnut kooks.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not going to be a disclosure event, people. I cannot say this enough. It's not going to happen overnight. You're
likely to meet an alien face to face before you're going to have public disclosure on the big screen. Or even the little screen.
Probably already met a few aliens face to face.
No, but like self-admitted, hi, I'm from this place. I'm an extraterrestrial and here to tell you about this and that, You're going to have that before you're going to see mainstream media disclosure, which honestly will go a lot farther to supporting people's belief, and it's not a belief proposition, as a matter of fact, but it will go a lot farther to supporting that and getting people to actually realize that, hey, yes, this is real, than some talking head on CNN telling you aliens are here. When you get to meet them face to face, and your crazy auntie comes out and shakes their hand, and your doubting Thomas uncle comes and says, oh, man, you guys are actually real in here, then you know it's real. When you have first-hand personal experience, you know it's real.
Okay, ladies, I have one more question, and it involves, they want Drake's answer, and then Drake needs, he has something he needs to go take care of, so I'm going to have this one last question, and then Drake will be allowed to bow out. Okay, and the question is, Drake, there's a new website called prepareforchange.net. The mission statement is to connect awakened people in various locations around the world in preparation for the event. They are asking for people to sign up and help prepare for this. I'm interested in signing up, but I'm considering how much deception there seems to be, and I'm not sure whether or not this is trustworthy. My inner voice does trust the recommendations of Drake, Sunfire, and Tanaath. They are genuine and kind, and I would very much like to know what, if anything, they know regarding this website. Is it trustworthy, and should I sign up?
That's going to be interesting. I can't vouch for the relative safety or togetherness of a website or the people that run them. Everybody gets a little something wrong, and a lot of people get a lot of things right, so it varies. Now, the second part of this is that my personal take on stuff like that is that it depends on whether or not it goes along with what's been stated on this show. If it does, then it may very well be accurate. However, I would suggest that they get in touch with us so that we can pass their information along, and it can be discerned even better by people who are better than others at that. This way you get a little bit of a double take, and it works well. It goes to safety, in my opinion.
I'm leery of anything that wants you to submit your personal details.
Yeah.
Well,
Too easy to take an inventory and track.
My website only asks for your email address if you want to have the updates as they come out. That's it. Nothing else.
That's it, and we don't
if
even
this
have
thing only asks for that, then you may shape.
I don't collect personal data of any form.
We don't even have access to that database either, Drake.
Do what now?
We don't even have access to the database of the email addresses. Like if somebody wants to be taken off the mailing list, I can't do it because it's simply you input it and it's part of the WordPress thing, and I don't have a roster.
You have to use their unsubscribe feature.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
anybody who's asking your real name, your address, your phone number, your contact details, I would not provide it, or I would provide falsified information.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to create a situation where we're giving them basically a category or categorized data by address of where all the people who are involved in the movement are living, working, and playing. That is too easy.
Okay, I'm getting some intel here. Somebody said something about it involves Cobra and GFOL.
Oh boy. Well, that would
so I would say no, don't bother.
They are fighting us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they've already GFOL already decided they were going to come down and take over. They got tired of us telling them to screw off, and we're going to come down here and kick our butts and all this other stuff, and they didn't even get off planet mostly. So and that's their planet, way out in Gaga land. I don't have much respect for people that screw with people. You run across these people that screw you in the name of the Lord kind of thing, where they actually use your best feelings, your best intuitions, your conscience and whatnot, your love against you as a weapon. And that's the kind of thing you're dealing with here. I'm sorry, but Cobra and the GFOL can, in my opinion, they suck canal water. Sorry. If they want to come here and fight, I'm armed, and that's basically the way I feel about it. I really don't have usage for something that thinks it's all that. I don't normally challenge people, but I have challenged a few, and I'll offer that challenge right now to these turkeys, and it would be a turkey shoot. So, don't do it.
You want to know how all that the DFL ships are? I have a crewmate that can sneeze and make one of them blow up.
I wonder what happens if you pass.
That's how all that the GFOL ships are.
Yeah, all this hierarchy and authority they're claiming just simply doesn't exist. It's an attempt to convince humans so that you invite them down here. Don't do it. There are no authorities over you other than you.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm pretty wore out. I got some personal items I got to attend to, and I'll be back on the regular show.
You have a good night, Drake.
Yeah, good night, Drake.
Yes. Thank you, Drake. We'll see you again. We have a show tomorrow night, which I'm about to tell the audience about. But we'll see you. If not, we'll see you on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Well, all these days that we're doing shows. See you next time.
Somewhere along in there. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks, Drake. All right, girls. Next question. Would an adult person who is gay in 3D still be gay after transition to 4D?
Quite likely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends. If they're, usually things like that are coming from a soul level.
Yeah.
Right, but
The
then
genetics
again,
might support
their
it.
being gay won't be looked at the same way it is in 3D.
No.
Right, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, it won't be.
Yeah, like I said, the question is usually,
stigma.
do you have sex, yes or no? Will Friday do?
Yeah, right, and it just won't have the stigma that we have here. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Well, the reason why there's the stigma here with gay people is because of the fact that the Andrani are so good at kicking the Reptoid butt and the Cabal's butt that the only way they can get back at the Andrani, because they obviously cannot hurt the Andrani and they cannot attack the Andrani effectively, is to have this stigma about the Greeks and have the stigma about the gay people. Because that's where where the origins of homosexuality here on the planet come from, is the Andrani.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. Next question. Okay. Most people out there, which I don't hear this, but most out there are speaking of going to 5D and 6D. Only Tanaath and Sunfire and Tolek seem to speak about 4D transition. Is there any sense that maybe some will go to 5D as part of the natural process, or will those following this 5D idea end up living in their own little virtual 5D bubble controlled and created by those who created the synthetic light realms?
Oh boy, I sure hope that won't be the case. This talk about 5D, I think it's probably because these people have decided, bigger and better, 4D ain't good enough, and hyped it up, right? Most of the people who are native Terrans who are naturally 3D will be going to 4. Those who come from 5th, 6th, or higher will be going to 5th, 6th, or higher. It's that simple. The only reason you're hearing it from these guys is because it's largely pumped by the channelers. This whole notion of you're going to 5D, and it was to sort of pull a one-upmanship over the ones who were saying 4D to make the people who follow those messages feel like they're more important or going to go better or be better people or get more than the people who don't follow those messages.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's not the case.
Let's see if we can get some of these out of the way, these questions, so we don't have carryover. Okay, I perceive another type of takeover here in the making, and I want to be as clear as possible about all of this, as I am part of a faction of those who are waking up here. Wink, wink. Okay, when Obama was voted for his first term in office, he pushed the change from analog television to digital very hard, even giving the upgrade for free. Was this just to ensure that the population would still receive their regular dose of mainstream media bullshit, or could it be more sinister? Could there be embedded in each of these digital boxes in every household something that emits a frequency to further dumb down the public? Perhaps you guys could have your allies take a look inside if you haven't already done so.
It's possible. We have found other things attached to stuff that they tried to have universally installed in people's homes, such as smart meters, etc. I can't talk too much about this kind of thing.
Cameras. Yeah, I've been told that there were
I can't talk too much about this kind of thing because it is operational detail. We don't want to give away everything that we know that we've caught and what we're working against. Because we don't want to give them an opportunity to spring up something else in its place.
And by the way, I want to point out that was the cabal that pushed the transition from analog to digital. It was not Obama.
Obama is really much more than a puppet, unfortunately. He's just
a puppet and he's a scapegoat.
Yeah. And they'll hang the clone dutifully at some point, but honestly, the actual person hasn't been doing any of it. And even the clone isn't doing anything. He's just doing what he's told. He's the talking head.
Okay, next question.
I know people got a lot of hate for him, but it's just not necessary. He's not the one doing it, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Next question, and I'm gonna get this in. We have about 10 minutes left of the program. Could you please ask the following question again during the upcoming program? Because this question was asked right at the end of the last Wednesday's program, and it was cut off, and we missed the end of the answer.
We better answer it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you elaborate? Okay, the question is, could you elaborate a little bit more on the 25,000 years ago, Earth being a fourth density planet? Does that mean that originally human beings on Earth were also fourth density when being engineered at the beginning? What exactly caused planet Earth to drop down to third density, and is it related to the cosmic energy cycle?
Sunfire, this is all you.
Okay, yeah. At the time when Atlantis and the old continents existed and were above the ocean, it was in a higher density or higher dimension. I don't know if it was 40. I believe it was slightly higher than that. Probably more around like 6 or 70. From what I understand and remember, what caused the planet to fall into third dimension was the amount of negative energy that came from the battle with the invaders and the reptoids, and all the nuclear and atomic bombs that were set off and all the other nuclear and atomic weapons. The impact of the energy on the planet caused the planet to fall in vibration, and the fall in vibration and frequency rate caused it to drop into the third dimension. Next.
Okay. We humans on Earth right now have left and right brains. It seems like the civilization that we are living in right now is more left brain dominantly driven society. Do you agree? And was the split of our left and right brain a natural physiological creation originally, or was it the result of reptoid genetic manipulation?
Okay, Hank's telling me it was a reptoid thing.
Yeah.
Said divide the mind, divide the population, divide everywhere you can, and you can conquer.
Okay. Are we more of a right brain society? Oh. Well, I just lost my call. I just lost the girls. Girls, are you there? And if you can, call me back. This is terrific. Don't know why they suddenly dropped, but they did. I'm watching the board to see if they can call me back. Let me see if I can bring them in. Hold on. I'm going to have to bring them in through Skype, I think, because I don't think they can dial in after the program. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Okay, I think I have you girls.
You have me. I'll get Sunfire in.
Okay, thank you, honey. Thank you.
We might. I don't know if it's worth doing when we only have a few minutes left.
Right.
But,
well, we'll just try to get one or two more questions in. Do you have her in?
Inviting her.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Do you agree that we're more like right-brained than left-brained?
No. Hank is telling me that under normal circumstances, human beings have whole brains. In fact, he said, divide the brain and humanity becomes easier to conquer.
Okay.
A divided brain, divided humanity, divided everything. Division is always the strategy of the reptoids.
Okay.
Divide and conquer, he says.
Okay. All right. Ladies, I'm sorry that your call got dropped. I don't know what the reason for that might have been. I didn't see anything else happen on the board, but we are quick.
That's just an issue.
Right. Well, we're quickly running out of time anyway. We made it through page 17 of 33 in questions. I'm going to send you the remainder of the questions, and we will do our best to get those addressed right away. Ladies and gentlemen, and again, we can only answer as many as we can answer. We just keep, trying to get them out.
Check here. Hank's still talking. In fact, he says, you split rationality from creativity and you have a recipe for insanity. When the two are united, you have a being that cannot be tricked easily or stopped. It was done in part to make us more susceptible to being fooled.
Okay.
The division of the right and the left brain, he says, contributes directly to our inability to tell truth from fiction or lies, and why we must go inside ourselves for discernment, because the brain can't do it.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right, ladies, I want to thank you, and thank you, of course, as always, to Drake. You answered a plethora of questions tonight, and we have a lot more for the coming week, obviously. I want to tell everybody that we have a special presentation tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Central, which will be Dennis Schulke about the courts and law practices, etc., in the state of Tennessee, and an ongoing case that he has going on. And he, some of you will remember him as a previous guest. He wrote a book called Attorneys Above the Law. And he will be returning with us tomorrow night, and in all likelihood, Drake and possible other guests will be joining us. Okay, and then, of course, Friday night we have the Eagle's Nest. And then Sunday we have Drake and Company Vital Weekend Update. So, again, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Great show tonight. Thank you for, getting so many of our questions, of our listeners' questions answered. Deeply appreciate both of you and all of your hard work, and that of the Andromeda Council and the Galactic Federation of Planets and the Silver Legion. Thank you to all of them, on all of you. And until next time, everybody, Tanaath and Sunfire, you want to wish everybody adieu, or is there any last-minute thing you want to say?
Have a great rest of your week and weekend, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe. Don't fear.
Absolutely.
Put your power and your thoughts to manifesting good for humanity, not manifesting the products of fears and disasters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Keep in mind, thought is the basis of all reality. What you focus on most will manifest itself. Where focus goes, energy follows. So when you see things like the fear porn and, that kind of stuff, and stuff that you recognize is just there to generate fear and spook the herd, turn your attention away from it.
Gotcha.
Keep in mind, the billion people became enlightened overnight. All that the cabals worked for and tried to create would disappear within the time of the setting sun and the rising sun.
Gotcha.
Something to work towards.
Thank you so much, ladies. Again, rest up, because we got another busy week ahead of us, and our best to everybody out there, and just keep plugging away, keep positive, and stick with us, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks again. Take care, girls.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. This has been the Universal Voice Radio Network, forward moving and focused on freedom. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Love you all.
Love y'all. Yes.
Peace.